Chapter 162. The Real World. During breakfast, Sun Sim mentioned the establishment of the Falling Moon Society to Ouyang Shua. That's fast. Ouyang Shua was surprised. That's for sure. How is it? How many people did you recruit yesterday? Sun Xiaoya was a bit discouraged and said embarrassedly, apart from a few of my friends, there were less than 10 people who joined yesterday. How could this be? Isn't the condition you set for joining the association too high? In his previous life, Ouyang Shua had also played in guilds. They were sworn siblings and formed the Liangshan mercenary group together. The leader was his big brother, Song Pu, nicknamed Little Song Jiang. He didn't know if the Liangshan mercenary group would appear in this life. As for the entanglement with Song Pu in his previous life, it disappeared with his rebirth. Ouyang Shua wasn't sure how he would feel if he saw Song Pu again. Would he be able to arouse the hatred in his heart? Or would they just be strangers? Sun Xiaoya shook her head and said helplessly, when recruiting people, I found out that the players who met the requirements were basically picked by the large guilds. The rest are basically solo players who are determined not to join guilds. We can't take in some crooked people or players who only want to join guilds. Ouyang Shua nodded. You did the right thing. It's better to have nothing than to have something shoddy. But what should we do if we can't take in people? Sun Xiaoya was still a bit competitive and unwilling to fail. Ouyang Shua drank a mouthful of soy milk and said, Don't worry. The solo players who were determined not to join a guild were simply unwilling to be bound by a guild. In reality, they were the ones with the most calm hearts and the most potential. This group of people is our main target. When dealing with them, we first have to remove their vigilance. We have to let them see clearly that the Falling Moon Society is a gathering place for a group of professional players. There are no restrictions on the members, and they don't need to complete guild quests. In any case, we don't plan to upgrade the Falling Moon Society. Don't mention joining the territory in the future and let nature take its course. Sun Xiaoya's eyes lit up, and she suddenly saw the light. She said with a smile, You're right. We can really try. It's just that it's very likely that in the end, it'll be like drawing water with a sieve. Ouyang Shua smiled confidently. Don't worry. As long as they join the society, they won't be able to escape from me. Sun Xiaoya curled her lips and said, Tisk, you're deliberately mystifying again. You're going to cry if you screw it up. Ouyang Shua didn't care about Sun Xiaoya's nagging. He looked up at Bing, and said, Baby, have you finished eating? If you are, Big Brother will send you to school. Bing, was currently struggling with the fried egg, and hearing Ouyang Shua's urging, she immediately swallowed it down. However, this way, she was unable to speak, causing the little lass to become even more anxious. Ouyang Shua shook his head in amusement and said, Don't worry, eat slowly. The little guy chewed hard a few times and finally swallowed the egg into his stomach. She took the napkin handed over by Ouyang Shua and gracefully wiped her small mouth. Then she giggled and said, I'm full, Big Brother. Let's go. After saying that, she carried the cute little school bag on the living room sofa and took the lead to walk towards the door. On the way, Binger looked up at Ouyang Shua and frowned. Brother, you and Sister Xiaoya are always talking about games. Bing doesn't understand. Ouyang Shua patted her head. Because it's a game for adults. It's right that you don't understand. Oh, Bing thinks it's more interesting to play hide-and-seek with Schwer. Ouyang Shua felt a headache coming on. Schwer has been mischievous because of you. Last time, you even hit my socks. Hee. The little girl laughed like a little fox. In fact, she was the one who asked Schwer to do it. You can't be so naughty in school. Bing was a bit unhappy. I'm a good girl in school. Even the teachers praise me. That's good. Ouyang Shua looked up and saw that they had arrived at the school gate. We're here. Be careful on the way home. And I know. Goodbye, brother. Bing waved at Ouyang Shua and skipped into school. We got home. Ouyang Shua began his routine cultivation. Ever since he learned the inner canon of a Yellow Emperor, Ouyang Shua rarely practiced Bejiquan in real life. As for the Yang family spear, he didn't have the qualifications to practice it. Fortunately, internal energy was the foundation. After he finished practicing, it was almost noon. After lunch, Ouyang Shua turned on his optical computer and logged into the forum. He found the anonymous post he had posted to see if anyone had replied to it. As expected, there were already people who noticed it. However, everyone felt that Ouyang Shua was deliberately mystifying things. It was most likely made up to attract attention. Some were even more blunt, saying that the original poster's brain was damaged from playing games. He couldn't even tell the difference between the game and reality. Ouyang Shua laughed and shook his head. It seemed that in the game, there were too few people who could practice the real thing. They hadn't seen the post yet. In the forum, this kind of post was posted anonymously. It was easy for it to be forgotten. Ouyang Shua couldn't raise the post high profile. Otherwise, his intentions would be too obvious. However, Ouyang Shua wasn't worried. As long as one or two people who had practiced the real thing noticed the post, it would become popular again. He still had that much patience. On the forum, the news of Shanghai County's advancement was still the hottest topic. Other than that, the players also dug out the news of Handan Town's advancement failure. Port Yichun was once again used as a stepping stone. The successful advancement of Shanghai County once again stimulated the major feudal lords around the world. The panic caused by the consecutive failures of Mikasa Town, Bangalore Town, and Liberty Town was greatly alleviated. At least everyone knew that the advancement mission could be completed. It wasn't a real death mission. It was foreseeable that the next wave of advancement requests would come again. Other than that, the process of Shanghai County's advancement also aroused the curiosity of the players. Previously, whether it was Mikasa Town, Bangalore Town, or Liberty Town, their advancement was relatively high profile. They didn't block the news. Liberty Town even took the initiative to broadcast the entire process. Only Shanghai County kept a low profile. When they applied for advancement, no one except the members of the Shanghai Alliance knew about it. As for the specific process of the battle, no one knew. Everyone was very curious about how Shanghai County completed such a difficult test mission. Unfortunately, this would become another mystery. Shanghai County, which was gradually becoming more and more clear, was once again covered with a layer of mystery. After exiting the forum, Ouyang Shua began to search for historical information, especially information about the next battle, which was especially detailed. In his previous life, he didn't participate in any battles, so he didn't have much of an advantage. Since that was the case, he could only look for an opportunity from the pile of old papers. At night, Sun Xiaoya came back from school with new news. Do you remember my two roommates? You mean Qin Ruo and Pan Xiaoqiao? Ah, you remember quite clearly. Do you have feelings for them? Let me tell you in advance, they're both taken, Sun Xiaoya said sourly. What? Please, don't talk nonsense. Ouyang Shua really couldn't understand the thoughts of girls. Sun Xiaoya snorted arrogantly. I'm just giving you a heads up. Then she patted her head and said in annoyance, Oh right, I almost forgot about the important matter. What I'm trying to say is that when we were chatting in school today, we started talking about the game Only on Earth. Didn't this game cause a wave of discussion in real life recently? It's now a hot topic on the search list. I didn't hide it and told Qin Ruo and Xiao Qiao that I'm already playing it. Now the two of them want to play it, saying that they want to see what magic this game has. Let's play it then. Ouyang Shua said indifferently. Sun Xiaoya froze, feeling as if she had punched the air. What? They're kind enough to help you, but you don't care. Help? Ouyang Shua was confused. Yeah. Think about it. If Qin Ruo and Xiao Qiao enter the game, their boyfriends will definitely join. That way, I can pull them all into the Falling Moon Guild and increase the strength of the guild. Ouyang Shua smiled bitterly and said, You're thinking too much. First, they don't necessarily play life professions. Second, even if they do, they're just rookies among rookies. How useful can they be? Taking 10,000 steps back, even if they're talented, there's only 4 of them. It's like trying to put out a cart of firewood with a cup of water. So the focus should still be on the method I mentioned this morning. Oh, Sun Xiaoya was immediately discouraged by Ouyang Shua's analysis. Science guys sometimes had low EQ. They only analyzed things rationally and didn't think of the passion behind it. Ouyang Shua didn't want to see Sun Xiaoya discouraged. So he comforted her, "Don't be discouraged. At the very least, your passion for developing the guild is worthy of recognition. Besides, no matter what, the addition of Qin Ruo and Pan Xiaoqiao can make your gaming journey more exciting. Most of the time, don't think too much about utilitarian things. Just be happy." Okay. After being comforted by Ouyang Shuo, Sun Xiaoya's gloomy mood was slightly alleviated. However, she wasn't as passionate as before. At this time, Binger suddenly jumped out and said to Ouyang Shu, "Big brother is a big idiot." Snow, who was flying in the air, also joined in the fun and said crisply, "Big idiot, big idiot." Ouyang Shuo was speechless. He smiled bitterly and said, Who did I offend?" Sun Xiaoya finally burst into laughter after being teased by Bing. To be continued. Chapter 163. After dinner, Ouyang Shuo returned to his room and logged into the game. In the game, Ouyang Shuo walked out of his room and looked at the slightly deserted courtyard. He couldn't help but feel a little uncomfortable. Normally, at this time, Yu and Qing Er would wake up one after another and begin to freshen up in the courtyard corridor. Now, apart from the servants, there was only Ouyang Shuo in the huge courtyard. Shaking off the emotions in his mind, Ouyang Shuo picked up the fine iron spear from the weapon rack and started practicing with the Yang family spear. After this period of hard work, his Yang clan spear technique had finally reached the entry level. At 10 o'clock in the morning, Ouyang Shuo appeared in his office on time. Ouyang Shuo picked up the drawing on the table and started flipping through it. This was the first draft of the overall plan of Shanghai County that had been sent over by the construction department yesterday. The main person responsible for this was the assistant director of the construction department, Hao Jiansheng. According to the plan of the construction department, the second city wall would be 6 kilometers long, 12 meters high, and 6 meters wide. Unlike the first wall, the second wall only had 3 sides. In other words, the south side of the second city wall would no longer be built with walls. Instead, the east and west city walls would be built directly to the base of the southern mountain range, connecting it with the mountain range. In other words, the Rocky Mountain Range was the 4th city wall. Because there were only 3 walls, although the second wall was much taller than the first one, in terms of construction work, it was only a little more than twice that of the first one. With the current population of Shanghai County, the construction division was confident that they could complete the construction of the second wall within a month. After the second wall was built, it covered an area of 36 square kilometers, which was 4 times the size of the old city. It was equivalent to building another 3 Shanghai towns. At the same time, the previously built moat would transform into the inner city river, providing enough water for the residents in the city. The residents of Shanghai Town mainly relied on digging wells for drinking water. In the future, apart from drinking water, he could also draw water from the river in the inner city. It was very convenient. The second part of the county's plan was to redivide the city. According to the planning of the construction division, Shanghai County was divided into 4 districts. The area within the first city wall was called the core zone. The area to the north of the first city wall was called the Northern City District. The North District was also the largest of the 4 districts, twice the size of Shanghai Town. To the east and west of the core area were the West District and the East District. These 2 districts were the smallest, only half the size of Shanghai Town. The third and most important part of the county planning was the functional positioning of each district. The core area was divided into upper and lower halves. The southern half would be the brain of the territory, similar to the ancient imperial palace. According to the planning of the construction department, the southern half of the district was divided into 3 parts: the left, the middle, and the right. Needless to say, the central part was the upgraded Lord's Mansion and the garden behind it. The left side would be the future administrative district. The yamen of the various departments would be gathered in this district. The right side was now the literary district. The Yellow Emperor Shrine, Mazu Temple, City God Temple, Recruitment Hall, private schools, and Lianzhou Academy were all concentrated in this area. Because the core area would no longer allow commoners to live there, the Matsu Temple and the Xingwang Temple, the 2 temples that needed to enjoy the incense offerings of the commoners, would be moved from the core area to the north area. Similarly, the private school would also be moved out of the core area. As for the recruitment center and Lianzhou Academy, they were moved to the northern half of the core zone. In other words, the Temple of the Yellow Emperor was the only building left on the right side of the southern half. The Yellow Emperor Shrine would be the ancestral temple in the future, and only lords would be allowed to offer sacrifices. The northern half of the core zone was divided into two parts with the central axis as the boundary. The left side would be the academic district, where the recruitment center and Lianzhou Academy were located. In the future, other academies in the territory would also be built in this area. As for the high-class market that was originally located on the left side of the northern half, it would be moved to the west side of the square, opposite the teleportation array. The right side of the northern half was now the military district. According to the plan, the right side would only retain two buildings, the military office and the barracks. As for the armor workshop, bow and crossbow workshop, weapons workshop, and alchemy workshop, they would all be moved out of the core area and relocated to the east side. With the rapid development of the military industry, the military district could no longer accommodate these workshops. Therefore, it was very suitable to place the four major workshops in the east side. As for the west side, it was planned to be the official residence area. All levels of officials and their relatives would be settled in the official residence area. The official residence area was next to the administrative district in the core area. It was convenient for officials to go to work, which was now commonly known as commuting. In the future, the official residence area would inevitably evolve into an area for the rich and powerful. Finally, it was the northern area that occupied the largest area. With the central axis as the boundary, the northern area was divided into two areas, east and west. Each area was equivalent to the area of Shanghai town. The commercial street that was originally located on the central axis of the core area would be moved to the central axis of the northern area, doubling its size. The western half was a residential area. In addition, the three buildings of the town god temple, the Mazu temple, and the private school would also be moved to the residential area. Considering that the western area would be the hardest hit area, the courtyard where the Public Order Bureau and the Disciplinary Bureau work together would also be moved to the residential area to maintain the security of the territory. In the future, the residential area would inevitably evolve into a gathering area for the middle class or even the rich. Because most of the people who lived there were workshop owners or shopkeepers of major shops. They were the first batch of residents, and as they developed with the territory, they accumulated more and more personal wealth. It would be difficult for the latecomers to surpass them. The eastern half was the commercial area. All the major handicraft workshops would be moved there. According to the principle of close management, the Bank of the Four Seas, the commercial department, and the tax department would all be moved here. Compared to the current commercial area, the planned commercial area was 4 times larger, enough for the major workshops to expand their business scale. After reading through the construction department's plan, Ouyang Shua couldn't help but slap the table in praise. This young man, Hao Jiansheng, not only completely understood his intentions, but also made it even bolder and more thorough. According to this plan, the territory would not need to be replanned for a long time in the future. As long as they followed the existing plan and filled the corresponding areas bit by bit, it would be fine. Just as Ouyang Shua was praising the construction department's plan, Secretary Bai Nanpu walked in and said, "Sir, Director Su is outside the door asking for an audience." Ouyang Shua was startled and quickly said, "Let him in." "Yes." Su Shuda rarely entered Ouyang Shua's office. This director of culture and education, Jin Shi, managed the Lian State College in an orderly manner. Therefore, Ouyang Shua rarely interfered with the work of the Department of Culture and Education. "Sir." After entering, Su Shuda bowed to Ouyang Shua. Ouyang Shua nodded with a smile and gestured with his hand. "Shuda, sit." "Sir, I have a request that I hope you can approve." Su Shuda went straight to the point. "Please speak. I request that the chairs in the meeting hall be removed." Su Shuda spoke very solemnly. It was obvious that this matter was very important to him. Ouyang Shua was startled again. This was strange, but he asked calmly why. As the territories level and your noble rank rise, you must always maintain the dignity of the lord. If it is like before, where everyone sits on the chairs to discuss matters without distinction of seniority, it is against etiquette and not in line with etiquette. Ouyang Shuo frowned. Shuda, you mean to have everyone stand? Su Shuda shook his head. If you're provoking your subordinates and do not want them to stand, then you can imitate the ancient system and arrange low tables in the meeting hall so that everyone can sit on the floor. Ouyang Shuo felt relieved. Etiquette occupied an important position in ancient society. Among the 6 ministries, the Ministry of Rites occupied one of them. It was the foundation of the Confucian rule of virtue and also the foundation of the feudal rulers. The Confucian school attached great importance to the role of etiquette in regulating people's behavior and put forward the slogan rule of etiquette. The Confucian school believed that everyone should abide by the rules of etiquette in accordance with their status. This would achieve the goal of the ruler, the subject, the father, and the son, as Confucius said. On the contrary, if etiquette was not applied, then etiquette is not good. In order to not easily break this situation, the Confucian school advocated a code of conduct. For rulers, etiquette required the ruler to imitate the ancient way to govern the country and handle family affairs like Yao Shun and Yu. From the rule of virtue to the small things like eating and changing clothes, there was a set of established procedures. For ordinary people, there were all kinds of etiquette. The ceremony of coronation, the ceremony of fainting, the ceremony of guests, funerals, and so on. Everything had to be carried out strictly according to etiquette. The Confucian school used such a comprehensive set of social norms to achieve their enlightenment. As a player's territory, it was naturally impossible to completely imitate this set of etiquette system. Taking Yu, for example, if they followed the Confucian school, then she would not be allowed to walk to the front of the stage. The system of Shanghai County had been designed by Ouyang Shuo. Many places had borrowed from the modern knowledge system, which was incompatible with the feudal society. It was even more impossible to imitate the Confucian system. However, it was undeniable that etiquette could indeed play a positive role in maintaining the rule of the feudal lord and the stability of the territory. The key was how to get rid of the dregs of the Confucian rule of etiquette and extract the essence. Shanghai County did not set up a special organization to regulate and guide the behavior and etiquette of the various classes in the territory. At this time, the Department of Culture and Education, or rather, Su Shuda, could take the initiative to stand up and correct the parts that did not conform to the etiquette system. More importantly, they could make flexible adjustments according to Ouyang Shuo's values. This undoubtedly made Ouyang Shuo very happy. Ouyang Shuo looked at Su Shuda with a smile and said, "Shuda, your proposal is very good. I approve it. The Department of Culture and Education will be responsible for the layout of the meeting hall. I will instruct the Resource Reserve Department to cooperate with you." Yes, Su Shuda was pleased. It was undoubtedly fortunate to meet a lord who was good at accepting advice. To be continued. Chapter 164. In the afternoon, Shun Jue walked into the lord's office. Even when he sat down, Shun Jue still did not know why the lord called him over. The conversation between Ouyang Shuo and Tian Wenjing was naturally confidential. Other than the parties involved, no one else knew about it. Tian Wenjing was also not a talkative person. Before the lord solved the mystery, he would not take the initiative to mention this matter to Shun Jue. Ouyang Shuo smiled and pushed a cup of hot tea in front of Shun Jue. "Don't be nervous, it's a good thing." Speaking of which, although Shun Jue was promoted by Ouyang Shuo, it was the first time that the two of them had a serious conversation. It was no wonder that Shun Jue was nervous. Shun Jue's expression relaxed, and his uneasiness dissipated. "I have seen your performance in the salt field department. Not bad at all. Now, I have an even more important task for you. Are you willing to leave the salt field department?" Ouyang Shuo was generous with his praise for Shun Jue. Shun Jue's heart trembled. He was now a division chief. He did not dare to think about what an even more important task would be. He replied mechanically, "I will follow your orders, Lord." Ouyang Shuo nodded. He still had some composure. If I let you take over the resource reserve department, are you confident? Even with Shen Jue's usual calm demeanor, he could not help but be shocked when he heard this news. To be valued by Tian Wenjing, Shen Jie naturally had his own strengths. Even though the news from Tian Wenjing was too shocking, Shen Jue still quickly adjusted his emotions and carefully said, "To be honest, this question is something that I don't even dare to think about. Compared to the 4 division chiefs, I am far from them in terms of ability, experience, and qualifications. I really do not dare to have such extravagant hopes." "You don't dare?" Ouyang Shuo was confused. Shen Jue gritted his teeth. He knew that if he refused again, it was very likely that he would miss this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Although the temptation was huge, Shen Jue still had his rationality. Think about it. None of the 4 division chiefs of Shanghai County were simple people. Not to mention Commissioner Fan and Commissioner Tian. They were famous historical figures, real big shots. It was already a waste of talent for them to be division chiefs. Naturally, it did not matter if they were qualified or not. Division Chief Chui, the Lord's adopted sister, was the daughter of a merchant family. She had rich experience in doing business and was the most senior officer in Shanghai Village. Regardless of ability or qualifications, she was the best choice. Division Chief Gu was the least experienced among the 4 division chiefs. Even so, to be able to lead a large refugee camp and stand tall in the wilderness, there was no doubt about his ability. Not to mention, before he wandered into the wilderness, he had a rich military experience. Even so, there were rumors that were not in Division Chief Ji's favor. It was said that if it weren't for His Excellency's unconditional support, Division Chief Gu wouldn't have been able to control the battalion chief. Every single division head was an authority in their territory. How can an ordinary person covet their position? Shen Jue knew that he was not from specialized school. Before coming to Shanghai Village, he had only attended a private school for a few years and learned a few words. His formal studies were completed at Lianzhou Academy. Within the territory, not to mention elementary scholars, there were no less than 5 high scholars and high scholars. As for his qualifications, he was considered to be one of the younger generation among the dozen or so directors. Even among the 3 directors of the Supplies Reserve Department, he had the least experience. The only thing worth praising was his spirit of research and his desire to learn. However, these qualities could not form the core competitiveness. After all, in the officialdom, the most important thing was the results. Therefore, Shen Jue had no confidence to take over the heavy responsibility of the Supplies Reserve Department. Shen Jie gritted his teeth and said in a deep voice, "Yes, His Excellency, I dare not." Unexpectedly, not only was Ouyang Shuo not angry, he laughed in relief. "Not bad. Not bad at all." Shen Jue was confused and asked, "His Excellency?" Ouyang Shuo's expression turned serious and said, "Do you know why I praised you? Please enlighten me, His Excellency." Shen Jue's expression was solemn, and he performed a student's salute. Ouyang Shuo calmly accepted it and said, "Promoting you to the position of director was a risky move. Your apprehension is also my apprehension. If you are hot-headed and hastily agreed to it, then I will have to carefully consider whether it is appropriate to put you in such an important position. If a person can have a clear understanding of himself and can resist temptation, then he is worth cultivating. Long ago in the army, I made it clear that people should be promoted based on their talents and not on their qualifications. In the officialdom, this principle also applies. I can't deny that promoting you to the position of director is not the right time yet, but there is no other way. Director Tian has a more important responsibility now. The Supplies Reserve Department needs to elect a successor. After Director Tian's recommendation, he thinks that you are the most suitable person. I also agree with his judgment. During the government meeting on the 25th of this month, your appointment will be announced. Before the official appointment, I am still worried and wanted to have a good talk with you. At the same time, it will be a test for you. The results have proven that Director Tian's judgment is correct. You are worth teaching. Don't worry. Having pressure is a good thing. You have to learn to turn pressure into motivation. Don't be a coward. Work hard and prove to the world that Shanghai County has the ability to independently cultivate a director. Don't be afraid of making mistakes. Don't be afraid. If something really happens, I will take care of it for you. I will be your strongest support." Ouyang Shua's words completely resonated with Shun Jue's heart. Even if there was a mountain of daggers or a sea of fire in front of him, he would not hesitate to jump down as long as his master gave the order. Shun Jue got up, knelt on one knee, and bowed to Ouyang Shua. Shun Jue's eyes were filled with tears. He said emotionally, "Don't worry, sir. I will not let you down." He had already decided to bear all the pressure and do a good job as a director. Ouyang Shua got up and helped him up. He patted his shoulder and said with a smile, "You're a man. What are you crying for? Hold back your tears and do your job well. Make it look good." Shunjie held back his tears and said loudly, "Yes." 25th of May, Shanghai County's Meeting Hall. The Shanghai County's government meeting in May was held on time. Other than the 4 directors and their subordinates, the chiefs of Beihai Town, Pool Town, and Friendship Town were also attending the meeting. The meeting hall had completely changed under the decorations of the Department of Culture and Education. At the front of the meeting hall, there was a flight of stairs that divided the hall into 2 areas. The floor of the elevated area was covered with a red carpet. A sandalwood table was placed on the carpet. The table was only half a meter tall. It was flat in the middle and tilted up at both ends. On the table, there was a brush, ink, paper, and inkstone. Behind the table, there was a chair. The back of the chair was curved, and the armrests were extended to the left and right. It was very simple. Behind the chair, there was a foldable landscape screen. At the bottom of the meeting hall, on both sides, there were 3 short tables placed vertically. On the tables, there was tea and seasonal fruits. Behind the tables, there was also a carpet, but there was no chair. The 4 directors were seated on both sides, kneeling behind the tables. Behind the directors, the subordinates of the various department chiefs were kneeling. The last 2 tables were empty for the time being. Behind the tables on the left, there were 3 chiefs of the subsidiary territories. Behind the tables on the right, there were the 3 chiefs of the audit department, the public order department, and the disciplinary department. Ouyang Shua sat at the head of the table. He looked around and said, "Before we officially start the meeting, I would like to announce the restructuring of the organization and the appointment and removal of personnel." The officers of the various departments below all wore calm expressions. They had long expected that after the territory was upgraded, the Lord would definitely make a big move. The restructuring of the organization was only a matter of course. "I have decided to establish the Department of Internal Affairs, which will be in charge of the territory's security, justice, prisons, audit, and population management. The independent public order department, disciplinary department, and audit department will all be under the jurisdiction of the Department of Internal Affairs. In addition, the Department of Household Registration under the administrative department will be under the jurisdiction of the Department of Internal Affairs." Ouyang Shua's heavy bomb once again exceeded everyone's expectations. The Department of Internal Affairs was under the jurisdiction of the key departments. It could be foreseen that its position could be comparable to the administrative department, especially the Department of Household Registration, which was transferred from the administrative department to the Department of Internal Affairs. 1 + 1 - both departments had 4 departments under them. It could be said that they were evenly matched. The establishment of the Department of Internal Affairs was based on the functions of the Department of Internal Affairs and Modern Society and combined with the reality of Shanghai County. The responsibility of the Department of Internal Affairs was mainly related to the territory's security. The only exception was the Audit Department. How to make full use of the Audit Department's functions had always been a problem that Ouyang Shua had considered. If the Audit Department were to be directly upgraded to a department, it would be a little weak and would seem insufficient. If the Audit Department were to be allowed to operate independently, it would be a level lower than the Finance Department. It would lack authority and would not be conducive to carrying out its work. After Ouyang Shua considered it again and again, he still decided to transfer the Audit Department to the Department of Internal Affairs. When Ouyang Shua announced the establishment of the Department of Internal Affairs, Tian Wenjing already understood. If it was not unexpected, the Lord should want him to be the head of the Department of Internal Affairs. Compared to the constantly declining Material Reserve Department, the newly established Department of Internal Affairs was of course more attractive and more suitable for him to display his abilities. As expected, Ouyang Shua began to announce the personnel changes. He said, Tian Wenjing is appointed as the head of the Department of Internal Affairs, and at the same time, Tian Wenjing is relieved of his duties as the head of the Material Reserve Department. Tian Wenjing immediately stood up and walked to the center of the hall. After bowing, he said, "Thank you for your trust, sir. I will definitely not let you down." This appointment was not out of everyone's expectations. In the territory, only Fan Zhongyin and Tian Wenjing could bear this heavy responsibility. Fan Zhongyin was already the head of the administrative department, so it was natural for Tian Wenjing to be in charge of the Department of Internal Affairs. With this, the two of them were finally back at the same starting line. The only thing that people were looking forward to was who would take over the position of the head of the Material Reserve Department. This position was equally tempting. To be continued. Chapter 165. Ouyang Shua did not let everyone wait for long. After announcing the structure of the Internal Affairs Bureau and the chief candidate, he continued, appoint Shun Jie as the chief of the Resource Reserve Bureau and remove him from his position as the chief of the Saltfield Bureau. Everyone was in an uproar. This was an unexpected appointment. Everyone's gaze towards Shun Jie became unfathomable. Some were jealous, some were probing, but there was no congratulation. Although Shun Jie was prepared to bear the pressure, he still felt suffocated when faced with such a situation. Shun Jie gradually calmed down as he recalled the conversation with Ouyang Shua. He stood up and walked to the center of the hall. He bowed and said, "Thank you for your promotion. I will not let you down." From today onwards, another big shot was born in Shanghai County's bureaucracy. Although this big shot was much dimmer than the other four, it was undeniable that Shun Jue's promotion was an invisible encouragement to the others. Next, the government affairs meeting began to get on track. All the departments and bureaus reported. Everything was normal and there were no surprises. After the government affairs meeting ended, it was already noon. The Lord's residence naturally did not provide lunch, so everyone returned home. Only the three chiefs of the subsidiary territories were left alone by Ouyang Shua to have lunch in the Lord's residence. 2 days ago, the Lord's residence's selection of maids had finally come to an end. 2 days ago, the Lord's residence's selection of maids had finally come to an end. Under Yingyu's leadership, 2 maids were recruited. The senior maid, Zissou, and the junior maid, Banksia. The 2 of them were in charge of Ouyang Shua's daily life. Zissou was also in charge of the servants in the backyard of the Lord's residence. According to Yingyu, Zissou and Banksia were orphans and had no relatives in Shanghai County. Zissou was fine. She was about the same age as Yingyu. She was steady and capable. Banksia was on the younger side, about the same age as Qingye. In fact, being Ouyang Shua's maid was very easy. As he would go offline at night, he would not be in the backyard during the day. There were very few times when he needed to serve. In the afternoon, Gu Xiuwen, Zhao Daxian, and Zhou Haichun walked into the Lord's office and started their routine report, introducing the development of their respective territories. In the report, Zhao Daxian, the chief of Pool Town, mentioned that there were 2 main things to do. The first was to upgrade the simple irrigation facilities in the farmland, and the second was to start building the city walls. Ouyang Shua expressed his appreciation and agreed to let the Bank of the Four Seas provide a loan to Pool Town for the construction of these 2 basic projects. In terms of the size of the city walls, Ouyang Shua made specific requirements. As a subsidiary territory, they would at most have 2 city walls in the future. Therefore, the length of the first city wall of Pool Town was determined to be 5 kilometers between the first and second city walls of Shanghai County. As for the water infrastructure upgrade, it should be supported even more. The position of Pool Town was originally a food-producing base. Apart from continuing to open up new farmland, Improving water conservancy facilities and increasing grain production per mu was the most fundamental solution. After all, no matter how much farmland there was, it would be useless without enough farmers to take care of it. Zhao Dexin was indeed a village chief. He had a keen understanding of agriculture and had rich experience. At least at the level of a town, he would still be of great use. The governor of Friendship Town, Zhou Haichun, focused on reporting on the trade with the Sky Abundant tribe. The Friendship Town had already successfully completed their second trade with the Sky Rich tribe, obtaining 200 green beetle horses. After discussion, both parties agreed to build a fixed market near the moat to the north of Friendship Town. The establishment of the market meant that the Friendship Town could trade freely with the herdsmen, no longer limited to trading with the tribes. More importantly, as the reputation of the market increased, people from other tribes could also come to the market to trade with the Friendship Town. Therefore, the establishment of the market meant that the trading window between the Friendship Town and the nomadic tribes had been opened. The goods traded by both parties were no longer limited to green beetle horses. Sheep, fur, and other goods could also be traded. If the market ran smoothly, then it would completely activate the vitality of the Friendship Town. Finally, it was Gu Xiuan's report from North Sea Town. It had been a month since North Sea Town had been upgraded to a third-class town. In addition to the 4,000 captives from the Gale tribe, the population had been overflowing since the beginning. Even so, North Sea Town still needed half a month to reach its full population of 10,000. As a port town, Gu Xiuan mentioned that the fishermen had already formed a fishermen's association and started to work together to fish. The fishermen also started to divide the work among themselves. The men would go out to fish in groups, while the women would stay at home to marinate the fish and sell it in the market. Other than the fishermen, the largest group in North Sea Town was the salt workers of the North Twilight Salt Works. According to Gu Xiuan's plan, they were going to imitate the headquarters and build a settlement near the salt works, gradually moving the salt workers out of North Sea Town. If North Sea Town wanted to become a port town, they had to get rid of the salt workers. The current population ratio of North Sea Town was extremely abnormal. More than half of them were salt workers. Moreover, the salt workers themselves were willing to live in the settlement. Firstly, it was convenient, and secondly, they had more freedom. It wasn't as restrictive as living in a town. However, on the issue of how to build the settlement, North Sea Town and the Saltfield Department had different opinions. North Sea Town wanted to build 5 settlements around the North Twilight Salt Works. Each settlement would have 1,000 salt workers, which was equivalent to a third-class village with a full population. The Saltfield Department, on the other hand, suggested that they could only build 2 settlements at most. Both sides had their own opinions. In the end, it was Ouyang Shua who made the final decision. After the report, the 3 chief officials returned to their respective territories. Ouyang Shua returned to the backyard and prepared to go offline. In the backyard, Zisu was sewing clothes for Ouyang Shua with Banxia. As it turned out, Zisu was an intermediate tailor. She could sew clothes for daily use. In fact, the clothes that Ouyang Shua wore on formal occasions were all made by Qing. This girl not only paid attention to her own clothes, but also took care of Ouyang Shua and Ingyu's clothes. According to the little girl, as the big brother and sister of a master tailor, if the clothes they wore were too inferior, it would make her lose face. After returning to his room, Ouyang Shua went offline. In the real world, Ouyang Shua's anonymous post finally attracted the attention of some people. There were already players who replied to the post, saying that they just wanted to give it a try. According to the original poster's method, they really felt the existence of inner force in the real world. It was really too unexpected. If there was a first, there would be a second. If it was only Ouyang Shua who said so, everyone naturally wouldn't believe it. But now that there were other players who provided evidence, it had a certain degree of credibility. Therefore, this post was dug out from the sea of posts and became a hot topic. In these 2 days, the number of visits and replies to the post showed a blowout increase. There were constantly lucky players who replied to the post, claiming that they had successfully practiced inner force in the real world. Of course, there were definitely many scammers among them. They were just trying to attract attention. Ouyang Shua wasn't sure if the federal government was behind the post's continuous popularity. What he could be sure of was that everything was developing in the direction that Ouyang Shua expected. It even somewhat exceeded Ouyang Shua's previous expectations. The torpedo was finally detonated. The protests of the people became more and more intense. Like a storm, they rushed to the federal government. The federal government finally no longer remained silent. The president's office announced that the federal president would make a televised speech on the 26th of May, which was this morning at 9 o'clock, to answer the questions of the people. After sending Bing to school, Ouyang Shua immediately returned home and prepared to watch the televised speech. Sun Xiaoya didn't go to school today. She deliberately stayed at home. Due to her female intuition, she felt that a big change was about to happen. The two of them sat on the sofa and turned on the television, ready to witness this important moment. Hey, what do you think the president will reveal about Earth on Low? I keep feeling that something is wrong. I feel weird. Sun Xiaoya asked Ouyang Shua before the broadcast. Ouyang Shua could already control his expression very well. He casually said, "How would I know? Anyway, it's about to start. We'll know later." You really don't know? Sun Xiaoya didn't give up. Of course I don't know. Ouyang Shua even believed himself. Sun Xiaoya stared at Ouyang Shua. From Ouyang Shua's face, she couldn't see anything strange. In the end, she could only helplessly curl her lips. You're getting better and better at pretending. Sun Xiaoya had long believed that Ouyang Shua must know something. However, she didn't know how deep Ouyang Shua's involvement was. Therefore, she often tested him. Unfortunately, with Sun Xiaoya's ability, she couldn't get anything out of Ouyang Shua. At 9 o'clock in the morning, the federal president officially appeared on the television. At the same time, among the 1 billion people in the world, at least half of them were watching this unusual televised speech through various methods. Hi everyone. Today, I'm going to announce an important piece of news. After you hear it, please don't panic. The federal government has already prepared a comprehensive plan to deal with any unexpected incidents. 20 years ago, a team of scientists detected that Earth, which we rely on for survival, will completely explode in the year 2200, which is 10 years later. The magma in the mantle will break through the crust, and Earth will become a planet of fire. Fortunately, there's always a way out. A new planet with life was captured by the Explorer interstellar probe. For this reason, the federal government has formulated a strict interstellar migration plan. Earth on Lu, that everyone is concerned about, is also part of the migration plan. The plan was thoroughly implemented over a period of 20 years. The federal government has officially decided to start the interstellar migration on July 1st, 2190. At that time, all citizens will board a spaceship and fly to the New Hope planet. The specific details of the migration will be posted on the federal government's official website. Everyone, please cooperate with the federal government and make preparations. Goodbye. To be continued. Chapter 167. In the afternoon, Ouyang Shua took the time to go out. He was going to visit someone who was crucial to the future development of his territory. Ouyang Shua took a taxi to an old district in the suburbs of Jiaozhou. In modern society, such districts were already forgotten, similar to the shanty towns from 200 years ago. Due to the sharp decrease in global population and the improvement of the social welfare system, the old districts were almost empty. Those who lived here were usually people who didn't fit in with society. After Ouyang Shua got out of the car, he followed the memories of his previous life and walked on the streets of the district. On both sides of the street, there were shops that had long been in ruins. They were no longer in business. When he saw a strange billboard, he calmed down. It seemed that the person in his previous life really didn't lie. Ouyang Shua strolled into the alley and walked on the bumpy cement ground. On both sides of the alley were high walls, and the walls were covered in moss and other vegetation. After walking for nearly 500 meters, Ouyang Shua finally saw a similar billboard. It was crookedly hanging on the gate of a small courtyard. The billboard was made of a piece of rusty iron sheet. On it was a bullet that was spinning at high speed. If one didn't look carefully, they wouldn't be able to recognize it. This kind of bullet had been completely stopped 50 years ago. This meant that firearms that used gunpowder as a combustion support material had officially left the stage of history. It was replaced by more convenient and efficient laser weapons with higher lethality and longer endurance. Looking at this billboard, Ouyang Shuo was a little dazed. If he was not mistaken, the person living inside was one of the few close friends he had in the game in his previous life, other than his siblings. His name was Lu Mo, a very ordinary name. His ID in the game was bullet out. This was a person who didn't fit in with the times. He was obsessed with firearms that had already been retired from a stage of history. From his initial hobby, he gradually became fanatical, almost to the point of being obsessed. In order to research firearms and recreate them in real life, he didn't hesitate to leave home, break up with his girlfriend, and move to the old district in the suburbs. He stayed there for 10 years. It wasn't until the interstellar migration that Lu Mo walked out of that small courtyard. At that time, his girlfriend was already married and had children. The disheartened Lu Mo stayed in the game, doing nothing. It was very difficult for him to display his talent in the game. Ouyang Shuo had accidentally encountered Lu Mo during a mission. Coincidentally, the two of them hit it off very well and naturally became friends. While they were chatting, Lu Mo mentioned his experience in the real world, which left a deep impression on Ouyang Shuo. That's right, Ouyang Shuo had specially come a look for Lu Mo this time. Firstly, he wanted to get to know this good friend of his from his previous life. Secondly, he wanted to invite Lu Mo to his territory to conduct research on firearms. In the later stages of the game, guns and cannons were the main characters of the war. After the Ming Dynasty, warships had to be equipped with cannons to be able to dominate the ocean. The system had strict restrictions on the technology tree, and it was very difficult for players to break through the limitations of their country's history. Europe and the United States relied on the Industrial Revolution. The birth of firearms was a normal technology tree. Just like in the last battle to defend Liberty Town, the matchlock had already appeared on the stage. However, in the China region, although the Ming Dynasty already had flintlocks and cannons, because of the Qing Dynasty's restrictions on flintlocks and cannons, not only did these technologies not develop further, they even regressed. Therefore, it was extremely difficult to create guns and cannons that were truly powerful and could be used in actual battles in China. First of all, it was impossible to find similar manufacturing manuals on the market or in auctions. Even if one used the game's freedom system to create something, it would still be a blank slate and wouldn't have any real killing power. But the appearance of the alchemist Magnus had opened a door to success for Ouyang Shuo. Magnus was an NPC with a Western background. In other words, he could follow the Western technology tree and slowly climb up. This meant that if Magnus, the alchemist, and Lu Mo, the firearms expert, worked together, they could bypass the manufacturing manuals and create guns and cannons with real killing power. Of course, this would definitely be much more difficult than using the Western technology to create manuals. However, at the very least, this provided a possibility that was worth Ouyang Shuo's investment and anticipation. Ouyang Shuo didn't want to fall behind in the future naval battles. Putting aside his thoughts, Ouyang Shuo stepped forward and knocked on the door of the small courtyard. "Who is it?" A surprised voice came from within the door. The voice was deep and resounding. Following that, a middle-aged man dressed in work clothes, with a scruffy beard and hair that looked like a bird's nest, opened the door. Ouyang Shuo was stunned. As his in-game appearance had been modified by Gaia, coupled with his attire, Ouyang Shuo couldn't be sure if the person in front of him was the Lu Mo he was looking for. "Hello, my name is Ouyang Shuo. May I ask if you're teacher Lu Mo?" The middle-aged man was also stunned. He said in surprise, "Yes. How did you find this place?" Ouyang Shuo felt relieved. Looking at his good friend's expression, he couldn't help but find it funny. In the game, when Lu Mo talked about his past, he mostly talked about the two billboards. He didn't describe his attire at all. Ouyang Shuo guessed that even he didn't know what kind of state he was in. Ouyang Shuo didn't answer Lu Mo's question. He said with a smile, "Why? Aren't you going to invite me in?" Lu Mo was rather straightforward. He wasn't afraid that Ouyang Shuo had any ulterior motives. "Please come in." After entering, the The entire courtyard was like a museum of firearms. All sorts of rifles and pistols were placed in a mess. Apart from that, there were also very specialized machine tools and other machinery. They were all essential for the manufacture of firearms and ammunition. Seeing that Ouyang Shuo seemed to be interested in these firearms, Lu Mo was clearly excited. He didn't pursue how Ouyang Shuo knew his name or how he found this place. He began to enthusiastically introduce the various firearms performance parameters to Ouyang Shuo. Ouyang Shuo could understand Lu Mo's feelings. Such recognition was very important to him. It had to be said that in modern society, the only person who could have such an understanding of firearms and ammunition, other than those who specialized in the history of weapons development, was probably Lu Mo. The crux was that not only was Lu Mo rich in theoretical knowledge, but his practical skills were also very strong. Only a surveillance blind spot like the Old City District could tolerate Lu Mo practicing his hobbies in this small world. Of course, the reason why it was a surveillance blind spot was because Lu Mo didn't use these weapons to cause harm to others. Otherwise, Gaia would have informed the police to arrest Lu Mo. After visiting Lu Mo's firearms museum, Ouyang Shuo brought up the purpose of his visit. He smiled and said, "You should have seen the president's speech on television this morning, right?" Lu Mo was stunned. What speech? Ouyang Shuo nearly fainted. There was really something he didn't know. For these kinds of people, they would usually be directly brought onto the spaceship by the federal government. You can go online here, right? Of course. Otherwise, how am I going to search for information? Go to the federal government's official website and take a look. Ouyang Shuo helplessly said. Look at what? Just look. It's absolutely important. Ouyang Shuo began to use the tone of a good friend from his previous life to talk to Lu Mo. Lu Mo didn't mind. He also didn't know if it was because he finally met someone who acknowledged him. He obediently turned on his optical computer and went to the federal government's official website. On the home page, the immigration details were placed at the most eye-catching position. Interstellar immigration? Lu Mo turned his head and looked at Ouyang Shuo. Ouyang Shuo nodded. Lu Mo was stunned and began to read seriously. 5 minutes later, Lu Mo finished reading it. He looked at Ouyang Shuo in shock and asked with uncertainty, "Is this real?" Of course. This morning, the federal president even gave a speech on television. The video of the speech should also be available on the official website. Ouyang Shuo could understand Lu Mo's doubts. Lu Mo opened the official website again and indeed found a video. After watching it, he was completely silent. Ouyang Shuo gave Lu Mo 10 minutes to sort out his thoughts. If there are no accidents, starting tomorrow, the government will distribute the gaming cabins. What are your plans? Lu Mo bitterly smiled. What plans can I have? For someone like me who is not accepted by society, what difference does it make if I migrate or not? Don't say that. At least, you still have your family, right? Lu Mo was silent again. After a long time, he muttered to himself, "Yes, you're right. I'm an unfilial son. No matter what, I should go see my parents. I don't even know if they will still acknowledge me." In his previous life, Lu Mo missed the chance to meet his parents because of this concern. That was why he was wandering in the game. This was also one of his few regrets. Ouyang Shuo naturally didn't want such a tragedy to happen again. "Thank you, brother," Lu Mo sincerely said to Ouyang Shuo. Ouyang Shuo smiled. "That's right, we're brothers. You're older than me, so I'll call you brother. To tell you the truth, I've been playing this game since the very beginning. So far, I've been making some progress. How about it? Come and help me in the game. Let's work together as brothers." "Okay, as long as you don't mind." Lu Mo was also very excited. That was why it was said that relationships between people were really mysterious. Some people, no matter how long you spent with them, you would never be able to open your heart to them. Some people, on the other hand, could become lifelong friends after just meeting them for the first time. Brother Lu, don't belittle yourself. Believe me, with your research on firearms, you can definitely make a name for yourself in the game. Ouyang Shuo said, "You're saying that I can also conduct firearms research in the game?" Lu Mo's eyes lit up. "That's right. That's great, I can't wait." Lu Mo seemed very excited. To be continued. Chapter 168. After exchanging phone numbers with Liu Mo, Ouyang Shuo didn't stay for long and left. When he got home, it was already 5:30 in the afternoon. It was almost time for dinner. Ouyang Shuo didn't say anything further and started to cook for the two grandaunts at home. While they were eating, Ouyang Shuo noticed that Binger's eyes were red, and he said with heartache, "Baby, did you cry in the afternoon? Who offended our little princess? Big brother, you're bad." Being exposed by Ouyang Shuo, Binger was obviously embarrassed. Ouyang Shuo naturally knew that the little girl was so sad because she heard that Xiaoya was going to leave. He was just teasing her to adjust the little lass's mood. Son Xiaoya couldn't stand it anymore and nagged Ouyang Shuo, "You're the elder brother, but you're bullying your own little sister." "Really?" "That's right," Binger agreed. Ouyang Shuo would not quarrel with the two great ladies at the same time. If he did that, he would die very miserably. He consciously focused on eating and did not say a word. Sun Xiaoya and Binger looked at each other and smiled, like a pair of victorious little foxes. After dinner, Sun Xiaoya began to pack. Ouyang Shuo looked at her packing a pile of luggage and asked doubtfully, "Xiaoya, you want to take all these things with you?" "Yeah, I won't come again in the future. Of course, I have to take him away," Sun Xiaoya said matter-of-factly. "Are you stupid?" Ouyang Shuo said sarcastically. "You? What do you mean?" Ouyang Shuo gave Sun Xiaoya a speechless look and said, "The immigration rules clearly state that each person is only allowed to bring a small amount of personal belongings. If you bring these things home, in the end, you'll still have to stay on Earth. So, tell me, are you stupid or not?" Sun Xiaoya was startled and only reacted after a while. She smiled bitterly and said, "Yeah, I forgot about it. I unconsciously organized these things. I really can't bear to throw them away." Perhaps, at this moment, Sun Xiaoya truly realized what interstellar migration meant. This was not like moving from one district to another. This was like moving from one planet to another. It was a completely different concept. Noticing that the atmosphere was slightly heavy, Ouyang Shuo didn't say anything and turned around to return to his room. Ouyang Shuo called Song Jia back. "Blockhead, you finally call me back. I was so worried." Song Jia seemed a little anxious. "Don't be anxious, speak slowly. What exactly happened?" Ouyang Shuo consoled. "Sigh," Song Jia said gloomily. "After the immigration rules were announced in the morning, the Ruan clan actually proposed to my grandfather in the afternoon. They wanted me to marry Ruan Ping so that our two clans could form a stronger and more reliable alliance in the game. Faced with the current situation, my grandfather was actually moved. Although under my opposition, the matter was put on hold for the time being. But I'm afraid it won't last long. Blockhead, what do you think we should do?" Ouyang Shuo was startled. In the end, Ruan Ping still took this step. Come to think of it, for medium-sized forces like the Song family and the Ruan family, because of the early immigration, they were just starting out in the game, so they felt very insecure. Huddling together for warmth became an inevitable choice. The marriage was undoubtedly a brilliant move. Song Jia's father was the person at the helm of the Song clan on the surface, and Ruan Ping was the first-in-line successor of the Ruan clan. The two were of equal weight, so the effect of a marriage alliance was naturally very obvious. "What do you think?" Ouyang Shuo was calm and collected. "I will marry Ruan Ping even if I die. If Grandpa forces me again, I will run away from home." Song Jia was a little emotional, and her attitude was also very firm. Ouyang Shuo calmed down and recalled the course of love in the past 3 months. It was really wonderful. The love between the two was filled with all the elements of a melodramatic drama, such as reunion, secret love, reunion after a long separation, C's counterattack, and the feud between the rich and the powerful, etc. All of this seemed very unreal, but it was love. Love would make people impulsive, make people irrational, catch you off guard, and make you desperate. Since his rebirth, there had been a lot of beautiful women around Ouyang Shuo. For them, Ouyang Shuo's feelings were different. With them, he was friends, confidants, brother and sister, but not lovers. Only in front of Song Jia, Ouyang Shuo would put down the burden, take off the mask, and live calmly and honestly. Jia Jia, don't be impulsive. Ouyang Shua calmed Song Jia down. What you need to do is to resolutely express your attitude and don't do anything out of line. Leave the rest of the things to me. Song Jia's heart warmed. Blockhead, what are you going to do? The reason why your grandfather was tempted was because he wanted to find a reliable ally in the game. Am I right? Ouyang Shua went straight to the heart of the matter. Song Jia nodded. Yes. In the past, Grandpa loved me very much. Before this, Ruan Ping often came to my house and coaxed me, but my grandpa didn't relent. That's right. Since it's a conflict of interest in the game, naturally, it should be solved with game methods. Don't worry, I will prove that compared to the Ruan family, I am more reliable and stronger as an ally. This time, Song Jia didn't tease Ouyang Shua for bragging. Instead, she said with the attitude of a little girl, Blockhead, I believe in you. You won't let me down. Ouyang Shua didn't want the atmosphere to be so gloomy, so he said with a smile, Jia Jia, after emigrating, are you going to stay in your heavenly frost town? Or come to my place? Song Jia was startled and said in an extremely domineering manner, that depends on whether your place is as powerful as you boast. I guarantee you'll be satisfied. Blockhead, you're bragging again, said Song Jia coquettishly. Following that, the two of them naturally exchanged sweet words. Ouyang Shua found that Song Jia was especially clingy today, completely different from her usual temperament. The sudden change of events and the marriage of a girl made Song Jia, who had always been confident and strong-willed, become a little girl, hoping to be comforted by her lover. The two of them chatted until 10 p.m. when his aunt, Lin Jing, called. Ouyang Shua had no choice but to end the call and said, Dear, my aunt just called me. Talk to you next time. Okay. Although Song Jia was a bit reluctant, she was still very obedient. Good night. Don't worry. I'll handle the matters in the game. Good night. Ouyang Shua hung up and quickly picked up his aunt's call. Aunt, it's me. Little Shua. Who are you talking to? The line is busy. Your future niece-in-law, of course. It was rare for Ouyang Shua to feel relaxed. Lin Jing's eyes lit up and said with a smile, Yo, kid. Not bad. Who's that girl? When will you introduce her to me? At this time, Lin Jing had the self-awareness of being a parent. Ouyang Shua was embarrassed and said, Aunt, I don't dare to. What if you kidnap her? Hey, brat. You got guts. You even dare to tease me. I don't dare. I don't dare. Ouyang Shua raised his hands in surrender. All right, let's stop fooling around. Let's talk business. Little Shua, it's really unexpected for such a change in reality. What do you think about my suggestion? Ouyang Shua had already considered everything and said, Aunt, you know that Bing will enter the game from tomorrow onwards. What's the matter? I'll definitely bring Bing to my territory. If we move to Shanghai and live together with your studio, what if the little girl spills the beans and leaks information about the game? What should we do then? It's not that I don't trust the members of your studio. It's just to be safe. I don't want any accidents to happen at the last moment. As for the immigration issue, you don't have to worry about it. I've read the immigration rules carefully. In principle, we'll be citizens of the same city and take the same spaceship. But if they're relatives, they can apply to the government. Then, even if they're not in the same city, they'll be assigned to the same spaceship when they board the spaceship, Ouyang Shua explained. Lin Jing was stunned. She hadn't thought about it that much. This nephew of his was really cautious. All right, you're right. Lin Jing compromised. Thank you for your understanding, Aunt. All right, we're family. Tell Bing that I'll visit her in the game in a month. She will. She'll be very happy. After ending the call, Ouyang Shua logged into the game. At this time, Binger was already asleep, and he didn't want to disturb her. In the game, there was a huge uproar. First, the currency exchange platform that had been open for less than 2 months had officially shut down, completely cutting off D. Chen's source of funds. Then, the prices of various items in the game skyrocketed. The players knew that from tomorrow onwards, there would be hundreds of millions of new players in the game. The balance between supply and demand was completely broken. As for the clamoring of the players whose territories were bought, they couldn't do anything about it. Ouyang Shua didn't have the mood to care about what was happening in the game. He ordered the finance department to hurry up and collect the profits from the Wolf Mountain Mine and the North Twilight Saltworks in the second half of May. First, Ouyang Shuan needed to purchase the blueprints of Grade 1 County. Secondly, it was almost the end of the month. All the salaries and provisions had to be distributed, which would be a huge expense. Ouyang Shuan knew that since the Union government was going to immigrate on the 1st of July, 2190, there would be a huge event in the game that night. The upcoming event would have a huge impact on the game. He had to seize the last month to prepare in advance and make use of the advantage of knowing the future to earn a lot of money. All of this required the support of funds. Otherwise, everything would be for naught. Ouyang Shuan spent the entire afternoon in his office, thinking about what he should do for the next month. Other than that, he had to convince Song Jia's brother, Song Wan, to help him persuade his grandfather to give up on the marriage. To be continued. Chapter 169. P.S. You still need 2 monthly tickets. Update in advance. Guaranteed before 6 p.m. Chapter 2. With a thought, Ouyang Shuan took out a badge from his storage bag. This token was obtained by Shi Wan Sui 2 days ago when he led the Mixed Brigade to annihilate a large bandit camp in the territory. Ever since the formation of the Mixed Brigade, Shanghai County had started to suppress the bandits again. Ouyang Shua's goal was to thoroughly plow the new territory of 1,000 square kilometers. 2 days had passed, but they had only completed a quarter of the task. According to Shi Wan Sui, the commander of a Mixed Brigade, it would take at least a week to finish. Because of the suppression of bandits, the formation of the personal guards of the Lord's Mansion had been delayed again and again. Ouyang Shuan instructed Wang Feng to select the guards after the suppression of bandits. The token in Ouyang Shua's hand was a primary commander's seal. Heavy infantry commander's tally. Basic allows 100 max-level militia to change their profession to Tier 1 heavy infantry. A similar seal had appeared in the system auction last time, but it was for the more precious heavy cavalry, and it was bought by Xiongba for 1,200 gold coins. According to the current market price, this heavy infantry seal should be no less than 2,000 gold coins. Firstly, the market price had skyrocketed, and secondly, the value of gold coins was naturally incomparable to that of 2 months ago. This seal was of little value to Shanghai County, but to Song Wan, it was a treasure. Ouyang Shuan no longer hesitated and sent the seal to Song Wan anonymously. Along with the seal, there was also a letter written by Ouyang Shuan. In the letter, Ouyang Shuan mentioned that he was the friend Song Jia had mentioned, and this seal was a gift for his future brother-in-law. As long as Song Wan was willing to sabotage the marriage between Song Ruan and Song Jia, he would be rewarded later. Whether the Song Enterprise was willing to form an alliance with a family of the same strength as itself, or to make a more powerful friend, please consider carefully which is more important. The game in the future would be a competition between the strong. The Skyfrost Town should not miss this rare opportunity. Otherwise, it would only be a second-rate territory. Ouyang Shuan used both the carrot and the stick in the letter, because he knew that showing weakness in front of an aristocratic family like Song Wan would not work. The more you showed weakness, the more he would look down on you. On the contrary, the tougher you were, the more he would not dare to act rashly. At this stage, the best proof of strength was to be able to give out a commander's seal casually. It was not hard to imagine that Song Wan would definitely report to his father or even his grandfather after receiving the seal. They were all shrewd people, and with their craftiness as merchants, they naturally wouldn't rashly place a bet before they clearly understood Ouyang Shua's background. This was exactly what Ouyang Shuan wanted. As long as the Song Enterprise hesitated and dragged on for a month, Ouyang Shuan would announce his identity when the immigration began. Then Wan Ping would have no chance to make a comeback. Ouyang Shuan was not worried that the Song would do something bad to him. Now, the world had entered the first level alert, and the citizen Shuan was not. The world had entered the first level alert, and the citizens were all were. Of course, the federal government had taken this into consideration and placed great importance on their safety. As businessmen of the Song Enterprise, they dared not take risks out of desperation. Moreover, Doing so would not do them any good. The loss outweighed the gain. It was not in line with the principles of businessmen. Yang 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 yang, 8-2 yang 2-2. Oh, yang 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 2. King, he song. He was afraid of powerful forces like Di Chun. Ouyang Shua was not confident that he could get out of this situation safely. After dealing with the commander seal, Ouyang Shua went offline. In the morning, Sun Xiaoya went home with a simple salute. As for her game cabin, it would be delivered to her through the Federation's game cabin delivery channel. It will be delivered on the same day. In the afternoon, Binger's game cabin was delivered to her door. As a child, Binger's game cabin was smaller. After the staff left, Binger looked at her game cabin and asked curiously, "Brother, will I play the game you and Sister Xiaoya are playing?" "Yes. In this way, you can stay with me at night." Moreover, in the game, there were two big sisters accompanying Binger. "Binger will like it. Can I see Sister Xiaoya?" The little girl still could not forget Sun Xiaoya. Ouyang Shua squatted down and pinched Binger's little face, saying, "Yes, but you have to wait for another month. Also, Shue, can play games with you too. Are you happy?" "Oh, really, brother? Of course. Well, have I ever lied to you?" "Yay, I'll go find Shue." The little girl ran out of the bedroom. Ouyang Shua shook his head with a wry smile. This little girl was really unpredictable. At 6 o'clock in the evening, Ouyang Shua logged into the game. This time, Binger logged in with him. Because Binger was a minor, she was using the parental care mode. Ouyang Shua had already verified himself as Binger's guardian. In the parental care mode, Ouyang Shua could assist Binger in various operations. After a series of binding, Ouyang Shua appeared in the Hall of Creation. "Oh, what a beautiful fairy sister," Binger exclaimed when she saw the fairy guide. Ouyang Shua did not delay. He directly set Binger's game ID to Ouyang Bing, selected the territory construction mode, and selected the part-time vigilante. She was born in Shanghai County. Of course, for the current Binger, the profession was meaningless. She could not play it. After the settings were completed, the siblings directly appeared in the teleportation circle of Shanghai County. Along with them was Shue, the advanced artificial intelligence pet. Walking out of the teleportation circle, Ouyang Shua took Binger's little hand and pointed to the Lord's mansion in the distance, saying, "In front of us is my home in the game. Do you like it, baby?" Binger looked at the huge Lord's mansion and exclaimed, "Oh, what a beautiful house. Let's go. Brother will take you there. There are two big sisters waiting for you." Okay. Walking into the Lord's mansion, the officials of the various departments had not yet gone to work. The entire Lord's mansion was occupied by some servants. Ouyang Shua directly led Binger into the backyard. The servant girl, Zissou and Banxia, were very surprised to see the Lord coming in from outside the yard. Even more surprised were the little girl that the Lord was holding, and the elf that was perched on the little girl's shoulder. "Master." Although surprised, the two hurriedly saluted. Ouyang Shua nodded and said, "Banxia, go to Qingying Courtyard and invite the eldest Miss and second Mississippi, yes." Banxia immediately turned around and left. Ouyang Shua then looked at Zissou and said with a smile, "Zissou, this is my younger sister, Ouyang Bing. In the future, she will be the third miss of the mansion. Little sister is still young and will need you to take care of her in the future." After these 2 days of observation, Ouyang Shua was quite satisfied with Zissou. This girl was generous and decent in handling matters. She handled all aspects in an orderly manner. Leaving Binger in her care, Ouyang Shua was very relieved. Zissa didn't dare to neglect and immediately saluted Binger. Third miss. Zissa wasn't stupid. Just now, the Lord had specially told her that this was the Lord's younger sister. Binger had never seen such a scene before. She only thought it was fun and raised her head to look at Ouyang Shua. She giggled and said, "Brother, this big sister looks like the big sister from the television." Ouyang Shua also didn't know how to explain to the little girl. "Baby, in the future, just treat this place as your home, okay?" Okay. Binger's adaptability was very strong. When she moved with Ouyang Shua, she didn't feel any discomfort. In the previous life, in the game, she also quickly adapted. At this time, Yingyu and Qinger had already finished washing up and hurried over. Ouyang Shuo invited everyone to the main hall and let Bing'er stand beside him. After Yu and Qing'er sat down, he then said, Yu, Qing'er, let me introduce you. This is my sister, Ouyang Bing. Ouyang Bing. Yu frowned and said, I remember Big Brother mentioned before that his surname is Ouyang. Could it be that this little sister is Big Brother's younger sister? What a good memory. Ouyang Shuo nodded and said, That's right. My real name is Ouyang Shuo. It's just a code name. Ouyang Shuo pulled Bing'er over and pointed at Yu and Qing'er. He said, Bing'er, this is your big sister Yu and big sister Qingxi. Do you remember? Okay. In formal occasions, Bing'er had always been very obedient. She sweetly called Yu and Qing'er big sister, which made Yu and Qing'er happy. Especially Qing'er. This girl couldn't sit still anymore. She stood up and walked to Bing'er's side. She said happily, Great, I'm finally not the youngest. Big Brother doesn't always bully me. Then, she became interested in Schwer, who was perched on Bing'er's shoulder. She asked curiously, Bing'er, tell me, who is this little fellow? Unexpectedly, Schwer was very smart. Before Bing'er finished, she flew up and circled around the main hall. She said in a clear voice, Schwer, Schwer. This action made Qing'er so surprised that she couldn't close her mouth. Ah, you can fly. That's amazing, just like the elves in the myths. You said you were Schwer, right? Yes. Even Yu, who is usually calm, couldn't sit still. She looked at Ouyang Shuo in surprise and asked, Big Brother, is this an ancient elf? Ouyang Shuo didn't know how to explain it to them. He could only say vaguely, Let's just say it is. At this time, Zisu walked in from outside. Master, young miss, breakfast is ready. Okay, let's go eat breakfast together. We'll talk at the dining table. As he spoke, Ouyang Shuo stood up and held Bing'er's little hand. He personally brought her to the dining hall at the side. After breakfast, Ouyang Shuo letting Yu and Qing'er go do their own things. He would take care of Bing'er today. Before leaving, Qing'er didn't forget to remind Ouyang Shuo to bring Bing'er to her tailor's shop. She wanted to make a few sets of beautiful clothes for her new sister. Ouyang Shuo nodded and agreed. To be continued. Chapter 170. Considering that Bing'er had just arrived, Ouyang Shuo did not plan to let her live in the East Courtyard immediately. Instead, he prepared a room for her in the East Courtyard. For the whole morning, Ouyang Shuo did nothing but stroll around Shanghai County with Bing. The bustling streets, the beautiful horses, and the ferocious Nian beasts were all novel to the little girl. Whether it was the commoners or the officials of the Lord's mansion, they were all happy that their lord suddenly had a younger sister. This proved that their lord had a family inheritance, which was very important in ancient times. Ouyang Shuo arranged for Zisu to stay with Bing'er to take care of her daily life. On Ouyang Shuo's side, only Ban Xiao was left. Anyway, he did not need to serve her much. In the afternoon, Zisu accompanied Bing'er to continue touring Shanghai County. Ouyang Shuo returned to his office and began to deal with the day's government affairs. He picked up an official document, which was submitted by Su Kuan, the chief officer of the weapons workshop. In the document, Su Kuan mentioned that the weapons workshop had successfully forged a lance by combining the tang knife and spear craftsmanship. Among the long weapons, the spear was the earliest. After the chariot appeared, it evolved into a spear so that the soldiers could attack horizontally from the chariot. After the appearance of the warhorse, especially after the invention of the stirrup, the cavalry became popular. By combining the advantages of the spear and the spear, it slowly evolved into the main weapon of the cavalry, the halberd. After the appearance of heavy armor, especially iron armor, the main weapon of the cavalry changed from the halberd to the lance in order to increase the armor penetration ability. The shape of the lance was the same as the spear. It could be called the heavy version of the spear. The precious part of the lance was the lance's shaft. The superior lance was usually made of tuo wood. It was a pity that such precious wood could not be found in Shanghai County or Pool Town. With the lance, the heavy cavalry of Shanghai County was finally fully equipped. What they lacked now was a lance instructor to teach the cavalry how to use the lance. At the mention of this, Ouyang Shua immediately thought of Qin Xiong from Dragon-Seeking Town. Ouyang Shua did not waste any time and immediately shouted in the Alliance channel, calling Dragon-Seeking Town. "Boss, what's the matter?" Dragon-Seeking Town responded immediately. "Cough. Let me borrow your Qin Xiong. We can discuss the terms." Wow. Here comes the opportunity to slaughter the rich. The siege lion suddenly came out. "Boss, Qin Xiong is the only general in my territory. I can't be at ease without him." As expected, the dragon-seeking acupoint technique was intentionally raising the stakes. Ouyang Shua did not want to follow his rhythm, so he directly stated his price. "For every day of renting, I will pay 10 Tang sabers, and the rental period is not less than half a month." According to Ouyang Shua's quoted price, 1 Tang Dao was 5 gold coins, so 10 of them would be 50 gold coins. The service fee was definitely enough. If he was still not satisfied with the dragon-seeking acupoints, then he would be too greedy. Deal! In reality, this had already far exceeded the expectations of the dragon-seeking acupuncture point. "Wow, Sun Long, you've made a fortune." "Boss, my family's Zhu Sheng can also be rented out. There's a 20% discount." The siege lion was extremely envious and sold out his advisor like a beast. "What's the point of renting your Zhu Sheng? You should transfer it to me. Just name the price." Ouyang Shua joked. "Hee, Zhu Sheng is not for sale." The siege lion did not lose its rationality. "Sun Long, tell Qin Xiong to teleport over now." "It'll be one day," Ouyang Shua shouted. "No problem. I'll go find him now." Dragon-seeking acupuncture point replied immediately. Ouyang Shua stood up and left the mansion, preparing to go to the teleportation circle to wait for Qin Xiong. As expected, Qin Xiong teleported over in less than 10 minutes. "Greetings, Lord Wui." "Thank you, General Qin. I'm sure your master has already told me the purpose of inviting the general here." "Yes, he has already told me to teach your army how to use the lance." "All right, please follow me, General." "Yes." Ouyang Shua brought Qin Xiong to the military division and handed him over to Gu Hongliang. "Division Leader Gu, I'll leave General Qin to you. Tomorrow, you will accompany General Qin to the northern barracks." He told Lin that he had to make sure that all the soldiers were able to use the lance. Those who perform well will be promoted to platoon leaders. "Understood." Ouyang Shua turned and left the division, returning to the mansion and bumping into Yingyu. "Brother, the profits from the Wolf Mountain mines and Northwind Saltworks have been collected, a total of 7,600 gold coins." Ouyang Shua nodded. "How much does the finance division need this month?" "This month's revenue is 2,000 gold coins, and we'll need at least 3,000 more in order to maintain our normal expenses," Yingyu said apologetically. "It's already not bad." Ouyang Shua comforted. "How about this? Leave 3,600 gold coins for the finance division, and give me the remaining 4,000. "Okay." Taking these gold coins, Ouyang Shua went to the market and spent 1,800 gold coins to buy the blueprints of the tea house, the cosmetics shop, the earth temple, and the prison. In addition, he also bought the blueprints of the county granary and the private school. Another batch of gold-class manuals appeared in the market, and Ouyang Shua ate them all. There were 24 of them in total, spending 1,200 gold coins. In addition to the 76 he bought last time, Ouyang Shua had a total of 100 gold-class manuals in his storage pouch. These manuals would rapidly increase in value after 7 months. Ouyang Shua didn't dare use the remaining 1,000 gold coins, keeping it for emergencies. After returning to his office, Ouyang Shua gave the building blueprints to Bai Nanpu and asked him to pass them to the construction division. The Shanghai County plan submitted by the construction department had already been approved by Ouyang Shua. Hence, there was no need for Ouyang Shua to instruct the construction department on where the infrastructure should be built. After the plan was approved, the construction of the second wall began. In order to save time, the territory was also being renovated at the same time. All the buildings would be moved according to the new plan. Just the renovation of these buildings was estimated to cost 500 gold coins, which was why Ouyang Shua kept 1,000 gold coins for emergencies. With the military strength of Shanghai County and the cleanup operation being carried out by the Mixed Brigade, these buildings were moved to the outside of the first city wall. Without the protection of the city wall for the time being, there was no need to worry about their safety. The bandits didn't have the guts or the strength to attack Shanghai County at this time. At 6 in the evening, Ouyang Shua went to his office to read. Binger suddenly ran in and giggled. "Big brother, it's time to get off work and eat." "Okay." Ouyang Shua picked her up and pinched her little nose. "Darling, did you have fun this afternoon?" he asked as he walked towards the backyard. "Yes, big brother, I had fun here." "Then was he naughty?" "Binger is very obedient. You can ask Sister Zissou." And Sister Ching, she even measured Binger's body and said she would make beautiful clothes for Binger. The little girl had become familiar with Zissou and Ching in just one afternoon. She was really a silly girl who wasn't afraid of strangers. When he returned to the backyard, Zissou had already prepared dinner. Ingyu and Ching had also returned. Seeing Ouyang Shua come in with Binger in his arms, everyone looked at each other and smiled. After dinner, Ouyang Shua took Binger to her room and asked Zissou to go out first. Then he told Binger how to go offline. After confirming that Binger had gone offline, Ouyang Shua returned to his room and went offline. After going offline, Ouyang Shua rushed to Binger's room. He saw that the little lass had already opened the game capsule through voice control and climbed out of the game capsule. "Darling, are you sleepy?" "Yes, a little." Having just come out of the game, Binger was still a little confused and didn't know what was going on. "Then go brush your teeth first. Big brother will make you breakfast. After breakfast, go back to your room and sleep." "Okay?" Ouyang Shua said. "Okay, I will listen to Big Brother." Needless to say, the breakfast shop downstairs was closed. Ouyang Shua could only cook 2 bowls of noodles and put 2 eggs on it. After Binger finished her breakfast and went back to her room to sleep, Ouyang Shua came to the living room and started his routine. He had decided that from today onwards, he would not go out at all. He would not even go jogging. He would just train his room. After warming up, Ouyang Shua took a hot shower and went back to his room to practice Inner Canon of the Yellow Emperor. Binger woke up at 11 in the morning. Because she didn't need to go to school and couldn't go out to play, the little girl could only stay in the living room to watch cartoons. Fortunately, Big Brother was accompanying her, so it wasn't boring. At noon, the siblings had a simple lunch. At 2 in the afternoon, Ouyang Shua started to help Binger with her revision in place of the teacher. At 4 in the afternoon, Binger started to do her homework. Ouyang Shua accompanied her by turning on the optical computer, browsing the forum, or searching for information. Such a schedule would become the siblings' daily routine for the next month. At 5 in the afternoon, Ouyang Shua finally received a call from Sun Xiaoya. Ouyang Shua got up, left Binger's bedroom, and went to the living room. "How was it? Did everything go smoothly?" "Yes. I reached home yesterday afternoon. This morning, I told my grandpa about you. Grandpa was very interested and wanted to call you," Sun Xiaoya said on the other end of the phone. "Okay." In the video, an old man in his 60s appeared. He had a head full of white hair, but his face was rosy without any wrinkles. He looked very energetic. "Hello, Grandpa. I'm Ouyang Shua." "Hello, young man. Thank you for taking care of my granddaughter." The old man was quite polite. "No way. I'm good friends with Xiaoya." Good, good. Young people should be like this." The old man was also a very practical person. After a brief greeting, he went straight to the topic. "I heard from Xiaoya that an old man like me also has something to do in the game." Ouyang Shua could understand the old man's feelings. These scientists of the older generation had devoted most of their lives to their own fields of scientific research, working tirelessly and diligently. What they cared about the most was their own research career. If they were to get rid of it all at once, they would definitely not be used to it. Now that they heard that they could continue their career in the game, they were naturally very concerned. "Yes, Grandpa, in the game, as long as there is a suitable platform, scientists like you will have a lot of achievements," Ouyang Shua said with a smile. Good, good, good. We old buddies just can't sit still. If we really have to raise flowers and birds in the game, I really can't get used to that kind of life." The old man was very happy. "Grandpa, you can call all your old friends. The more the better. Even if they don't have a clear attitude, They can leave their contact information. Ouyang Shua said with a smile. Okay, I'll listen to you. Then I'll have to trouble you, Grandpa. Ouyang Shua said at the end. To be continued. Chapter 171. While Ouyang Shua was pulling strings in reality to recruit talents for the territory, there was an unusual change in the group of overlord players in the Lianzhou Basin. May 30th, Duanren Town. The Lord of Duanren Town, Domineering Blade, led a group of core members of the territory and waited by the teleportation array. Not long after, 5 players walked out of the teleportation array and chatted with Domineering Blade. The 5 people who were teleported were the Lord of Tianfeng Town, Dawn Wind Waning Moon, the Lord of Ishui Town, Ruoshui 3000, the Lord of Gushan Mountain Town, the Lord of Guanshui Town, Riding the Wind and Breaking the Waves, and the Lord of Evernight Town, Black Cloak. Including Duanren Town, the 6 territories in front of them were all the town-level territories in the Lianzhou Basin, except for Shanhai County and Mulan Town. Among them, only Duanren Town and Tianfeng Town participated in the Battle of Zhuolu. The other 4 territories had been promoted to first-level towns during this period of time. With the disclosure of the immigration news, hundreds of millions of players poured into the game, which indirectly promoted the rapid promotion of each territory. A large number of third-level villages were promoted to first-level towns. From then on, towns would become the mainstream in the game. With the influx of players, many overlords couldn't withstand the pressure and began to recruit players to settle in their territories. A large portion of the recruited players were relatives of the overlords. A feudal lord would have 7 aunts, 8 aunts, and other direct and collateral relatives. In addition to distant relatives, colleagues, good friends, and other social relationships, it was already a very large group. In addition, there were friends of relatives, friends of friends, and friends of colleagues. These groups added up to hundreds of people. According to the players' ideas, compared to struggling alone in the system city, settling in a territory controlled by their family or friends was much more free. Unfortunately, the cruel territorial war in the future would completely shatter these people's beautiful fantasies. Of course, the overlords weren't fools. In addition to recruiting friends and relatives, they also recruited all kinds of professional players. As for combat professional players, because there were too many uncertain factors, the overlords were more cautious when recruiting people. When recruiting players, the overlords had to be very careful and not recruit people with ulterior motives. In his previous life, there were groups that used the opportunity of the overlord's recruitment to pretend to not know each other and join a certain territory in batches. Then, they would pretend to oppose each other in order to gain the Lord's trust. The Lord thought that he had the pearl of wisdom in his hands and played the role of a mediator, but in reality, he was toyed with by others. In the end, the player group that he joined made him a mere figurehead, and he became a lord in name only. There were too many examples of territories changing flags. After all, there were too many smart people in the China region. It was undeniable that the lords were elites in the game, but in terms of social experience, they might not necessarily be comparable to newbies who had just entered the game. They were all elites who had been in society for many years. Needless to say, there was also a professional swindler group, which was even more terrifying. As this group of people entered the game would become even more chaotic. Thus, when this whirlwind blew, Ouyang Shua specially solemnly reminded his allies on the Alliance channel that they must be extremely cautious when recruiting people. There was no need to worry about Feng Qiuhuang among the allies. She had the support of the elites of the various large families, so there was no need for her to worry. There was no player group that dared to provoke them. Although the Siege Lion looked unruly, he was actually a very meticulous person. The Siege Lion's foresight and understanding of the territory's construction methods made Ouyang Shua gasp in amazement in many areas. Thus, Ouyang Shua was more at ease with the Siege Lion. With Fat Tiger's assistance, the chances of him being overthrown were very low. Towards this mission maniac, Ouyang Shua was a little worried. This fellow was a typical player who was extremely powerful in the game, but had low emotional intelligence in real life. Ouyang Shua vaguely remembered that in his previous life, There had been a power struggle in dragon-seeking city, but it seemed to have been resolved in the end. As an outsider, Ouyang Shua had no way of knowing the exact details. Bai Hua and her Lingxi town were also a rather special territory. Many players had settled in Lingxi town before, and most of them were guild members that had been established by the Lingxi workshop in the previous game. Thus, in this wave of players, Lingxi town suddenly surged with over 3,000 people, pushing the population limit of Lingxi town close to the 10,000 population mark of a third-class town. In theory, Lingxi town was the most dangerous. In reality, Ouyang Shua was not worried. In his previous life, it had been sufficiently proven that Bai Hua had the ability to control these uncertain factors. Otherwise, Lingxi City would not have become an overlord in his previous life. What made Ouyang Shua's heart ache the most was Mulan Town. As expected, the upheaval in his previous life still befell the pitiful little girl, Mulan Yue. As it turned out, Mulan Yue's parents were both scientists who had been working at the Mars base. In order to continue their research work and observe the upheaval on Earth 10 years later, the couple decided to temporarily stay at the Mars base. The federal government left behind a spacecraft and enough supplies for the staff of the Mars base for 20 years. After the researchers finished their observation tasks, they could board the spacecraft and rush to Hope Planet. Mulan Yue wanted to stay at the Mars base to accompany her parents. How could her parents be willing to let their daughter suffer with them? They firmly refused. Thus, the little girl, who was about to embark on a journey alone, was in an unusually low mood. After Ouyang Shua and the others heard the news, they specially teleported to Mulan Town and comforted her. Ouyang Shua even promised that after arriving at Hope Planet, he would let Mulan Yue stay by his side. Her good friend's consolation finally made Mulan Yue's temperament not change drastically like in his previous life. Apart from feeling a little down, there was nothing unusual. Ouyang Shua also finally understood why Mulan Yue worked so hard to manage her territory in his previous life. Presumably, she wanted to lay a good foundation for her parents who would arrive later. Because of this incident, Mulan Yue became closer to Ouyang Shua. Under Ouyang Shua's suggestion, Mulan Town temporarily did not recruit other players to settle in its territory. Back to the main topic, it was very unusual for the 6 lords of the Lianzhou Basin to gather in Duanren Town. The Qiushui River and the Friendship River, which formed a Y shape, divided the Lianzhou Basin into 3 parts. The V part of the Y shape occupied more than half of the Lianzhou Basin. This was the territory of the nomadic tribes. Apart from Mulan Town, which occupied the geographical advantage of the Southern Guard Pass, there were very few territories that could survive in this area. Even if there were players who established territories in this area, they were basically uprooted by the nomadic tribes. On the east and west sides of the Y shape, there were more than 30 player territories. Duanren Town and Tianfeng Town were the 2 winners of the Lianzhou Basin in his previous life. They were located on the east and west sides of the basin, at the upstream of the Qiushui River and the Friendship River. Next to their territories were the 2 major lakes of the Lianzhou Basin, East Lake and West Lake. The geographical advantage of being near mountains and lakes was also one of the reasons why Duanren Town and Tianfeng Town were so successful in his previous life. Yishui Town was located in the middle of the Qiushui River and was built next to it. The Lord, Ruoshui Sanqian, was the only female lord in this gathering. Gushan Town was located in the southeast corner of the Lianzhou Basin. It was built at the junction of the eastern and southern mountain ranges. It was also an important place for defense. Ever since the Lord learned that there were mountain barbarian warriors in Shanhai Town, he had the intention to contact the mountain barbarian tribes and had already made some progress. In the future, Gushan Town would be Shanhai County's direct competitor for the mountain barbarian tribes. Guangshui Town was located in the middle of the Friendship River. It was similar to Yishui Town. The Lord, who rode the waves, was the young master of a medium-sized family and was somewhat arrogant. Lastly, Eternal Night Town was built near the Eternal Night Forest in the northwest corner of the basin. The forest on the west side of Shanhai County was the outermost part of the Eternal Night Forest. Therefore, Eternal Night Town was the territory closest to Shanghai County. The Lord, Black Cloak, was also a cruel and merciless person. It was not hard to imagine that these 6 territories occupied the most important strategic locations in the Lianzhou Basin, apart from Shanghai County and Mulan Town. They would also be the biggest obstacles for Shanghai County to dominate the Lianzhou Basin. They had come to this gathering to form an alliance. The 6 people stayed in Duanren Town for a whole day and officially established the Heavenly Saber Alliance. It adopted a 2-master system. The 2 masters were Tyrannical Saber and Dawn Wind and Waning Moon. In addition, Tianfeng Town, Eternal Night Town, and Guangshui Town formed an Iron Triangle. Duanren Town, Yishui Town, and Gushin Town formed another Iron Triangle. When the Heavenly Saber Alliance was first established, it had already split into 2 factions. The 6 members of the Heavenly Saber Alliance attacked from the left and right, forming a strategic encirclement around Shanghai County. Their goal was to work together to remove Shanghai County from the Lianzhou Basin. Otherwise, if this trend continued, there would be no place for them in the Lianzhou Basin in the future. The Heavenly Saber Alliance was a typical offensive and defensive alliance. The alliance had agreed that before Shanghai County was eliminated, the alliance would maintain internal peace and the allies could not attack each other. At the same time, in the future territorial wars, all the allies would work together to expel other territories that were weaker than them. This was a typical case of the big fish eating the small fish and the small fish being afraid, forming an alliance to fight against the big fish. At the same time, they did not forget to eat the small fish to strengthen themselves. This kind of interesting situation would also be the norm in the future territorial wars. After all, territorial wars were cruel. It was either you die or I live. There was no room for negotiation. Whether the future Heavenly Saber Alliance could realize their vision or not would only be tested by time. Although Ouyang Shua knew nothing about this undercurrent, he had already arranged for the Military Intelligence Department to collect information on these Lord players. Once the time was ripe, Ouyang Shua would not hesitate to crush all enemies in front of Shanghai County. To be continued. Chapter 172. On the 5th of June, Shanghai County's operation to suppress the bandits finally came to an end. The Mixed Brigade's 10-day operation to suppress the bandits had yielded a bountiful harvest. They obtained a total of 2,500 gold coins, 3,000 captives, and a large number of rations, supplies, and weapons. As for the special items, aside from the heavy infantry commander's tally, they also obtained a Territory's Specialty Scroll. Territory's Specialty Scroll, 3 after use, the output of crops increases by 10%. There was a total of 6 Territory Specialty Scrolls. Shanghai County already obtained the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th scrolls. They still had not obtained the 1st, 5th, and 6th scrolls. Of these, the first one increased the attraction rate of refugees, the 5th increased the army's leveling speed, and the last one increased the success rate of the territory's talents breaking through bottlenecks. All of these were extremely important. The C's funds basically replenished the funds spent on the previous army expansion. Of course, the larger expenditure was the continuous increase in the army's pay. Right now, Friendship Town paid for the Vanguard Battalion's pay, North Sea Town paid for the Northern Sea Fleet's pay, and Wolf Mountain's garrison camp did not pay. Hence, the main camp only needed to pay for the mixed brigade stationed in the northern camp and the city defense camp and the Divine Strategy Battalion stationed in the city. Even so, Shanghai County's military expenditure reached 2,000 gold coins a month. Of the 3,000 captives, 250 of the pirates were sent to North Sea Town to become the Northern Sea Fleet's reserve soldiers. This way, the Northern Sea Fleet's 3rd Battalion's reserve soldiers were full. Once North Sea Town was promoted to North Sea County, these reserve soldiers would officially change jobs and form the Northern Sea Fleet's 3rd Battalion. As for the remaining captives, aside from a small portion selected by the military and recruited into the reserve soldiers, the rest were sent to serve in the 2nd City Wall construction project. After the project was completed, These people would be sent to work in the brick kilns and pottery factories. After the suppression of the bandits, the selection of the Lord's residence's personal guards officially began. Before the selection, Ouyang Shua announced that the personal guard's pay would be twice that of the other troops. No good man could resist the temptation of glory and money. Ouyang Shua specially instructed Wang Feng to choose high-ranked elite soldiers who were not willing to change jobs to early-ranked generals. According to Ouyang Shua's understanding, if rank 9 elite soldiers did not choose to change jobs, they had a certain chance of advancing further and becoming even more elite soldiers. In the afternoon, as Ouyang Shua was reading, Tian Wenjing, the newly appointed head of the Internal Affairs Bureau, walked in. "Sir, congratulations." Tian Wenjing could not hide his joy. Oh, what's there to be happy about? It was rare for this cold-faced chief to be so happy. So Ouyang Shua was very interested. There's news from the Mystic Bird tribe, saying that there's a small tribe that's really having a hard time. They're willing to bring their entire tribe down the mountain and settle down in our territory, Tian Wenjing said with a smile. Ever since the extermination of the Gale tribe, Tian Wenjing had been appointed by Ouyang Shua as the Lord's special envoy, fully in charge of the affairs of the mountain barbarians. Some time ago, the Ministry of Internal Affairs was established and the head of the Material Reserve Division was replaced. This task was not handed over to the newly appointed head of the Resource Division, Shenjie. Instead, it was handed over to Tian Wenjing. Ouyang Shua considered that, firstly, it wasn't easy for Tian Wenjing to get familiar with all the tribes. If they change him halfway, it would be a waste of effort. Secondly, the responsibility of the Ministry of Internal Affairs included the management of the floating population, so it would be more appropriate for the Ministry of Internal Affairs to be in charge of it. After the Labor Day holiday, Ouyang Shua decisively adjusted the policy regarding the mountain barbarians. On the one hand, the relatives of the barbarian warriors moved to Shanghai town and settled down there. On the other hand, the barbarians were encouraged to go down the mountain, either to settle down there or to work in Shanghai town. Now, a month had passed, and this policy had finally paid off. "Which tribe is it?" Ouyang Shua asked. "It's one of the 8 tribes that agreed to cooperate with us in the 3rd batch. Unlike the Mystic Bird tribe and the 3 tribes in the 2nd batch, the barbarian warriors and the grain subsidy were all one-time use. They could still get paid through the Wolf Mountain mine. Therefore, once the grain subsidy is used up, we'll return to the precarious situation we were in before," Tian Wenjing explained. Ouyang Shua nodded, indicating that he understood. The Mystic Bird tribe was the first barbarian tribe to cooperate with Shanghai County, and they also benefited the most. Not only did their tribesmen occupy the majority of the miners in the Wolf Mountain mine, but their influence in the surrounding tribes also gradually increased. They replaced the exterminated Gale tribe and became the de facto leader of this area. The 2nd batch of barbarians that cooperated with Shanghai County were 3 small tribes. It was also this time that the Gale tribe rejected Shanghai County's friendship, laying the groundwork for their future extermination. The tribesmen of these 3 small tribes were also arranged to mine in the Wolf Mountain mine. Therefore, their living conditions had already improved. The 3rd batch of barbarians that cooperated with Shanghai County was after the extermination of the Gale tribe. These tribes were intimidated by Shanghai County's power and had no choice but to submit. In this batch, there were a total of 2 medium-sized tribes and 6 small tribes. Because the Wolf Mountain mine was already full, this batch of tribes only received a one-time subsidy. In the future, they could only rely on gathering herbs in the mountains in exchange for some food from Shanghai County. Their lives were very unstable. In addition, the tribe's most elite warriors had been selected by Shanghai County and recruited into the army. Therefore, it was even more difficult for the tribes to hunt than before. Therefore, it was understandable that this 3rd batch of tribes could not resist the temptation to go down the mountain. After all, no matter which ethnic group it was, they all had the idea of not worrying about scarcity, but worrying about inequality. If it was in the past, everyone was the same and lived a hard life. There was nothing to complain about or be envious of. However, because of the existence of the Wolf Mountain mine, These tribes were imperceptibly divided into two parts, and the gap between the rich and the poor began to appear. In addition, these tribes had tasted the sweetness of Shanghai County's food subsidy, which allowed their tribesmen to live comfortably for a period of time. Now that they were being beaten back to their original state, no one was willing to accept it. In addition, Tian Wenjing kept adding fuel to the fire from the side. Finally, there were tribes that could not take it anymore and were willing to abandon the so-called barbarian tradition. They agreed to go down the mountain and settle down in Shanghai County. After understanding the cause and effect, Ouyang Shua became more and more confident in his mountain barbarian policy. In this, there was a drastic measure, followed by a carrot and a stick. It was really the policy of the foreign tribes to the extreme. How many people are there in this tribe? Ouyang Shua continued to ask Tian Wenjing. There are more than 1,800 people. Ouyang Shua nodded. Such a small number of people was considered a small number in a small tribe. Let's settle this tribe in Pool Town. That place is closer to their homeland, so the difference should not be too big for them to adapt in a short time. In the future, the mountain barbarian tribes that will go down the mountain will also be mainly arranged in Pool Town. I will send an official letter to Pool Town, asking them to cooperate with the Ministry of Internal Affairs and do a good job in the selection and construction of the settlement. Understood. Yangon, you have handled the affairs of the mountain barbarians very well. I'm very satisfied. However, we cannot be satisfied with the current situation. We still have to continue to increase our efforts in persuasion, especially taking this opportunity to persuade more mountain barbarian tribes to go down the mountain and settle down in Shanghai County. Ouyang Shua said in the end. Don't worry, sir. I will definitely not let you down. Tian Wenjing promised solemnly. After Tian Wenjing left, Ouyang Shua started to write an official letter to Zhao Dexian, the chief official of Pool Town. In the official letter, Ouyang Shua wrote that the mountain barbarian settlement would be built according to the standards of a first-class town. The settlement would be a purely agricultural settlement. They had to plan a large enough farmland area and reclaim it in time so that they could start sowing the second season of rice at the end of July. Other than that, Pool Town had to provide sufficient farming tools for the settlement. The existing cattle could also be temporarily rented to the settlement to reclaim the farmland. They also had to send experienced farmers to guide the mountain barbarians in farming. These mountain barbarians did not have any rice farming experience. The Ministry of Agriculture of Pool Town had to increase their support. This settlement must be made into a demonstration site to reduce the difficulty of persuading the Ministry of Internal Affairs. Pool Town also had to be responsible for the food supply of the mountain barbarians. In order to reduce the burden on Pool Town, the Ministry of Finance of the headquarters would give Pool Town a one-time financial subsidy of 1,000 gold coins. Coincidentally, Pool Town was in the process of upgrading the water conservancy facilities and building the city walls. They could be recruited into the construction site and paid according to the standards of the headquarters. Finally, Ouyang Shua mentioned in the official letter that Pool Town had to make an overall plan for the mountain barbarian settlement. This was to prepare in advance for the mountain barbarian tribes to go down the mountain and settle down there. In Ouyang Shua's official letter, he had considered all aspects of the matter and had specific instructions for them. It could be seen how much importance he placed on this matter. After he finished writing, Ouyang Shua called the clerk by Nanpu and asked him to send this official letter to Pool Town immediately. Shanghai County had a fixed bailiff who was responsible for sending and receiving official letters between territories. There were a total of 4 bailiffs who were directly led by the clerk by Nanpu. After that, Ouyang Shua got up and went to the office of the superintendent of finance. He mentioned the matter of the financial subsidy to Ingyu. This amount of money was naturally paid by Ouyang Shua. After deducting this amount of subsidy and the 500 gold coins used for the territory renewal, Ouyang Shua was left with 2,000 gold coins in his storage pouch. Binger appeared in Ouyang Shua's office punctually at 6 o'clock in the evening. Calling her brother for dinner after work had become a regular routine for the little girl. During this period of time, Bing'er had completely adapted to life in Shanghai County. In the Lord's mansion, be it the officials of different levels or the servants, they all cherished and cared for the Lord's sister. In addition, Bing'er was originally beautiful, cute, well-behaved, and sensible, which made her even more popular. Especially second brother. He followed behind Bing'er the moment school ended. He was a complete stalker. Today, Bing'er was wearing a Tang princess dress. The pink dress was embroidered with peach blossoms. She looked dignified and cute at the same time. This dress was naturally made by Qin. To be continued. Chapter 173. On June 6th, when Ouyang Shuo logged in again, he heard a system announcement. System announcement. Congratulations to player Chun Shin-jun for becoming the second lord of a level 1 county in the China server. Achievement points awarded, 2,000. System announcement. Congratulations to player Chun Shin-jun for becoming the second lord of a level 1 county in the China server. Achievement points awarded, 2,000. System announcement. Congratulations to player Chun Shin-jun for becoming the second lord of a level 1 county in the China server. Achievement points awarded, 2,000. After half a month, the China region finally had its second first-class county. During this period of time, 5 first-class counties have been born around the world. Among the top 10 territories in the world, except for Mikasa Town, Bangalore Town, Freetown Town, and Handan Town, the remaining 6 territories had all been promoted. Shanghai County's advantage was once again narrowed by the other territories. After Lord Chunshin's Danyang district was promoted, Ouyang Shuo teased in the Alliance channel. Everyone, when are you going to apply for promotion? You can't fall too far behind. Among the 5 allies, Milan Town and Black Lion Town were only second-class towns. They were still far from being promoted. Dragon-Seeking Town had just been promoted to a third-class town not long ago, so it was not that fast. The ones with the most hope were Fallen Phoenix Town and Spirit Rhino Town, which had been promoted to third-class towns long ago. I'm prepared to wait another week. Bai Hua was the first to respond. What about Feng Wu? Wu-yi, I was just about to look for you, said Feng Xiaohuang. Oh, I've just applied for promotion. Ninth will welcome the bandits' attack. This is a good thing. What do you need me to do? Everything else is fine. I just want to borrow your 3 bows, 8 bulls bed crossbow. Ouyang Shuo didn't hesitate in the slightest. No problem. Recently, the crossbow division built another one. Together with the original 2, I'll lend them to you. Furthermore, I will send Shanghai County's Divine Strategy Battalion Commander to guide you on how to operate it. That's great. I was still worrying about the training of the members. Feng Qiuhuang said happily. It's my duty. When the rest of you apply for promotion, just let me know. You can all borrow it. Yay. The Alliance leader is mighty. Mulan Lanyue was cheeky again. Might +1. This was a siege lion. Mighty +2. Mighty +3. Ouyang Shuo was somewhat speechless. He had no idea why goddesses like Bai Hua and Feng Qiuhuang were joining in the fun. Naturally, Ouyang Shuo was doing this in the hopes that all of them would be able to smoothly advance to the next level and thus increase the strength of the alliance of mountains and seas. Wu-yi, let me tell you a piece of news. Feng Qiuhuang said. What news? Including my family. The fathers and grandfathers of the major forces have all entered the game. Although they would not walk in front of the stage, they would help behind the scenes to plan. So, you have to be careful when dealing with Di Chun and the others. Don't look down on them again. Feng Qiuhuang reminded. Don't worry, I'll pay attention. Ouyang Shuo had long since expected such a situation, so he was very calm. Also, don't think that everything is fine just because the currency exchange platform is closed. The family's power is beyond my imagination. Originally, many of the family's elites, including members with different surnames, were maintaining the operations of various industries in the real world. Now, this batch of elites had all entered the game. With this group of core strength, it will be easier to manage the territory. Some of the more powerful fellows aren't any weaker than historical figures, especially when it comes to financial and business matters. Because of Ouyang Shuo's straightforwardness, Feng Qiuhuang returned the favor and spoke very clearly. Others might not know, But Feng Xiaohuang was certain that Ouyang Shuo was definitely not a descendant of some hidden family. With the real world in such a chaotic state, even the most hidden family would have to surface. How could they be like Ouyang Shuo, who had become even more low-key? Feng Xiaohuang valued Ouyang Shuo as an ally. Naturally, she did not want Ouyang Shuo to underestimate the enemy. In fact, how could Ouyang Shuo not know what Feng Xiaohuang said? Not only that, Ouyang Shuo also knew that the Battle Wolf's blood-red town's strength had recently soared. This was because a batch of professional soldiers had joined the blood-red town, forming a professional regular army. The discipline and tactical attainments of this batch of soldiers were many times better than the NPCs of the NPCs. Especially in intelligence warfare and special operations, they had an absolute advantage. Not only that, the commanding ability of the officers was no weaker than the generals of ancient times. It could even be said that in some aspects, they were even stronger than the NPC generals. The only thing they lacked was the characteristics and martial arts of the NPC generals. They were slightly lacking in individual combat ability. Therefore, this was equivalent to the Blood-Red Town directly obtaining an elite army, in addition to many historical strategists and historical generals. One could imagine how terrifying it was. The other members of the original 6 hegemons of Handan City were also more or less strengthened. In no time, they would all be promoted to a first-class county. What Ouyang Shuo was interested in was that after the migration, Dichun would lose the means to suppress the Kill Ripper. He was really looking forward to how this pair of enemies would get along in the future. If not for Ouyang Shuo's accumulation, the current Shanghai County would not even have the right to challenge them. If not for Ouyang Shuo's conscious effort to nurture the officials of the natives from the village level, he would have been crushed by Dichun. Luckily, Ouyang Shuo had a backup plan. Otherwise, he would really have to hand over the throne of the first place in the China server. The biggest weakness of these large factions was that no matter how powerful they were in real life, once they entered the game, they had to follow the basic rules of the game. In terms of understanding of the game, no one could compare to Ouyang Shuo. For example, these financial elites in real life entered the game, but there was no stock market or unified bank in the game, only the most primitive banks. Coupled with the lack of capital, it was very difficult for them to play any tricks. Of course, if these financial elites were to be brought to Shanghai County to manage the Bank of the Four Seas, then the management level of the Bank of the Four Seas would be greatly improved. Another example was the agricultural experts in real life. Although they could modify the ancient water conservancy projects, it was impossible for them to create hybrid rice to increase the yield. As for fertilizers and pesticides, it was impossible. Thank you for the reminder. Ouyang Shuo was very grateful for Feng Xiaohuang's kindness. The topic that Feng Xiaohuang brought out caused the atmosphere in the chat to become very gloomy. Among the 6 members of the Shanghai Alliance, only Feng Xiaohuang was from a large faction. The others were all ordinary players. Originally, these things were indistinct. Now that Feng Xiaohuang had revealed the advantages of a large faction, how could the Siege Lion and Dragon-seeking acupoints not feel pressured? All right, everyone, don't be discouraged. As long as we are willing to find talents, there will be no shortage of them. So what if we don't have elite players? As long as we make good use of the natives, we can still manage the territory well. Moreover, the natives are not without benefits. At the very least, they have absolute loyalty and respect for their lord. As for those elite players, they definitely won't be able to do this. Ouyang Shuo encouraged everyone in the chat. I think Wui is right. Shanghai County only has one player, Wui, and he's not at the top of the world. From this, we can see that the potential of the natives is huge. The key is whether we can know our people well. Bai Hua was the first to support Ouyang Shuo's point of view. I also support Brother Wui. Big Sister Mu, how are you? Mu Lanhua followed. After hearing Ouyang Shuo and Bai Hua's words, the Siege Lion and Dragon-seeking acupoints felt much more relaxed. This was all Ouyang Shuo could help them with. After all, they had to walk their own path. Big brothers and sisters, do you guys lack money? My Milan town is very poor. Even if Big Sister Mu wanted to expand the army, she wouldn't be able to gather enough money for a class advancement. Little Abdomen's black magnolia moon broke the silence and exposed her own dirty linen. Ouyang Shua's heart ached for this sensible girl. He said, "You, if you need money, Big Brother can lend you some." "No, Brother Wui. Although you have money, Shanghai County is so big. I don't want to take up Big Brother's funds." Mu Lanyue directly refused. Ouyang Shua's heart stirred. He said, "Since that's the case, I have a suggestion. You can consider it." "What suggestion?" "You all know that Shanghai County has a bank called the Bank of the Four Seas, right?" "Yes, I know. My suggestion is to open a branch of the Bank of the Four Seas in your Mulan town and provide low-interest loans to your territory. This way, we can solve Mulan town's financial problems and create profits for Shanghai County. It's a win-win situation, and you don't have to feel guilty. Of course, I have to say that this way, Mulan town's economic lifeline will gradually be controlled by the Bank of the Four Seas. You'll have to weigh the pros and cons of this." Ouyang Shua's words were very thorough. He clearly stated the pros and cons. "Brother Wui, I have to discuss it with Big Sister Mu before I can give you an answer." "Of course." After listening to Ouyang Shua and Mu Lanyue's conversation, the other four were silent. Bai Hua and Feng Xiaohuang didn't lack money for the time being. On the other hand, the Siege Lion and Dragon-seeking acupuncture point were facing the same problem as Mu Lanyue. However, as Ouyang Shua had said, once they allowed the Bank of the Four Seas to open a branch in their territory, it would be equivalent to giving up control of the territory's economic lifeline. This required a lot of courage and trust. In fact, even if the Siege Lion and Dragon-seeking acupuncture point took the initiative to propose it, Ouyang Shua wouldn't agree. The reason why Ouyang Shua agreed to Mu Lanyue's proposal was because both of them were from Lianzhou Basin. In the future, they were destined to merge together. The earlier they could achieve economic integration, the better it would be for their future integration. In addition, Ouyang Shua also wanted to use the opportunity of opening a branch of the Bank of the Four Seas to speed up the development of Mulan Town. Only with the rapid development of Mulan Town could they firmly control the Southern Guard Pass. To be continued. Chapter 174. Mu Lanyue turned off the Alliance channel and found Mu Guiying. She told Mu Guiying about Ouyang Shua's proposal, wanting to hear Mu Guiying's opinion. Mu Guiying fell silent after listening to her. Obviously, this problem was a dilemma for Mu Guiying. Her original intention was to allow Mulan Town to operate independently. However, the reality was that Mulan Town's development was slow due to the lack of funds. She had too much energy to focus on military affairs. After a long time, Mu Guiying looked at Mu Lanyue and asked, "Little you, let me ask you, how much trust do you have in your brother Wui? Besides being an ally, do you have any other feelings for him?" Mu Lanyue was startled. She didn't understand why Mu Guiying would ask such a question. Fortunately, she had always trusted Mu Guiying. Even though she found it strange, she still answered seriously, "Brother Wui is not only an ally, he is also a big brother. Although he is not my real brother, I can feel that Brother Wui cares for me from the bottom of his heart." Mu Guiying nodded and didn't deny it. "Then let me ask you again. What do you think about the future of Mulan Town? We are in the same Lianzhou Basin as Shanghai County. We will have to face this problem one day. To tell you the truth, I have also thought about this problem. You already know that Mom and Dad will be separated from me for a long time. The reason I want to maintain Mulan Town's operations is to wait for the day Mom and Dad return. I want them to be proud of me. As for the future, integrating into Shanghai County's system is the best choice. However, before that, I want to rely on my own abilities to manage Mulan Town well." Mu Lanyue replied. Mu Guiying nodded and said, "I understand. In that case, I agree to allow Shanghai County to set up a branch of the Bank of the Four Seas in Mulan Town. In this way, I can put more energy into suppressing bandits and train an elite force for the territory to guard the Southern Pass." Mu Lanyue was delighted. "All right, I will let Brother Wui know." After receiving Mu Lanyue's confirmation, Ouyang Shua got up and went to Yingyu's office. "Big brother, Ingyu quickly got up and invited Ouyang Shua to take a seat. After Ouyang Shua sat down, he explained the situation in Mulan Town and then said, Ingyu, my idea is to transfer Yang Yun back from North Sea Town and station her in Mulan Town. What do you think? Chui Ingyu pondered for a while and smilingly said, I think it's feasible. Yang Yun had participated in the entire process of setting up the Bank of the Four Seas, so she had a clear understanding of how it worked. In addition, I have accumulated a lot of grassroots experience from managing the bank's Beihai Town branch. I should be able to do it. All right. In that case, he would send a letter to Yang Yun in the name of the finance department, asking her to return to the headquarters immediately after handing over the work in Beihai Town. As for the successor of North Sea Town, let the finance department decide. Understood. Ing Pomelo nodded and then asked, Big brother, how much reserve funds are you preparing for the Milan Town branch? Ouyang Shua already had an answer to this question. Milan Town definitely won't do if they don't have enough reserves. The first sum of funds will be set at 2,000 gold coins. This is also all the liquid funds we can use right now. This amount of money should be able to support us for a period of time. When the economy is better off in the future, we can increase the investment. I agree. Ing Pomelo also came from a noble clan. Naturally, she knew that once a bank gained a stable footing, it would be a money-making machine. The initial investment would bring in rich returns in the future. Naturally, she supported it. At 2:00 p.m., the Divine Strategy Battalion Commander, Wang Yuanfeng, arrived at Luofeng Town with 3 3-bow 8-bull bed crossbows. After sending off Wang Yuanfeng, Ouyang Shua turned and returned to the Overlord's residence. At 4:00 p.m., Yang Yun returned to Shanghai County and immediately rushed to the Overlord's office to report. After Yang Yun's routine report, Ouyang Shua instructed, Mulan Town's Overlord, Mulan Yue, is my friend. The Bank of the Four Seas opening a branch in Mulan Town is a normal business activity. When you arrive in Mulan Town, remember to maintain absolute neutrality. You absolutely cannot interfere with Mulan Town's economic affairs. All the more you cannot interfere with Mulan Town's territorial affairs. Do you understand what I mean? The Bank of the Four Seas was like a sharp blade. If the wielder of this blade could not maintain a clear mind and had any evil thoughts, he might cause endless trouble, putting Mulan Yue in a difficult position. Naturally, Ouyang Shua trusted Yang Yun. However, due to the importance of this matter, he still gave her some instructions out of worry. Yang Yun nodded seriously and said, My lord, don't worry. I understand what to do. That's good. Ouyang Shua waved his hand and said, All right, I've already said all that needs to be said. It's getting late. Go to Division Chief Chui's place and see if he has any other instructions. Tomorrow morning, I'll personally send you to Mulan Town to take up your post. Yes, Yang Yun answered and stood up to take her leave. The next morning, Ouyang Shua brought Yang Yun to the transportation formation and headed for Mulan Town. Yang Yun was not really going to take up her post alone. Aside from her, the finance department also picked 2 capable salesmen to be her assistants and go with her. As for the preparation for the Bank of the Four Seas Mulan Town branch, Mulan Town would be in charge of them, including the selection of basic employees. Mulan Yue and Mu Guiying were already waiting at Mulan Town's transportation formation. After the 2 sides met, Ouyang Shua introduced them to each other. If the Bank of the Four Seas wanted to gain a foothold in Mulan Town, they would need Mulan Yue's support. There were many opportunities for both sides to interact with each other, so Ouyang Shua naturally had to act as a go-between. Ouyang Shua left Yang Yun and her 2 assistants behind to discuss the preparations for the Bank of the Four Seas branch with Mulan Yue. He, accompanied by Mu Ging, walked out of Mulan Town and headed for the Southern Guard Pass. The Southern Guard Pass was located 20 kilometers south of Mulan Town. It firmly guarded the only passage from the Lianzhou Basin to the hinterland of Guangxi and was currently occupied by a group of mountain bandits. From afar, one could see a majestic pass towering in the middle of a canyon that was nearly 50 meters wide. The entire pass had experienced the baptism of time, leaving behind mottled traces. The southern guard pass was divided into the main pass and the east and west side gates. The main pass was 20 meters tall and 30 meters wide. It was completely built with huge stone slabs. At the bottom of the pass was the only entrance. It was 10 meters tall and 8 meters wide. There were a total of 3 gates, all of which were closed. The main pass extended to the east and west sides, sticking to the cliffs on both sides without the slightest gap. The extensions on both sides were slightly lower, only 15 meters tall. There was a side gate on each side that was 6 meters tall and 4 meters wide for people and goods to enter and exit. On the way back from the Southern Guard Pass, Ouyang Shua asked Mu King, "General Mu, do you know anything about the mountain bandits that occupy the pass?" The mountain bandits were still a hidden danger. Ouyang Shua planned to cooperate with Mulan Town to uproot them and let Mulan Town be in charge of guarding the pass. Mu Guiying shook her head. "You saw just now? Our spies have no way of getting close to the Southern Guard Pass. They'll be exposed to the pass guards if they go any closer." Ouyang Shua nodded and asked, "Then, what do they rely on to make a living? Why haven't they come out to plunder? Especially Mulan Town, which is right under their noses. Have they never been harassed?" Mu Guiying frowned. "That's what I find strange. According to my speculation, when they first occupied the Southern Guard Pass, there was likely a large stockpile of resources that would be enough for them to enjoy for a long time. Second, there are usually people coming and going from the pass, so the mountain bandits can still make a living by collecting some transit fees. That's why they stay in the pass and rarely come out to plunder. After all, mountain bandits are also people. If they don't have to worry about their livelihood, they won't be willing to go out to plunder. That will only lead to bloodshed." Ouyang Shua nodded in agreement with Mu Guiying's speculation. He said with a smile, "If that's the case, then these mountain bandits aren't a motley crew. Their leader isn't simple at all. Not only is he clear-headed and far-sighted, but he also has a high prestige among the mountain bandits." "What do you mean?" Mu Guiying was a bit curious. "Think about it. It's just as you said. Most of the mountain bandits are happy to be content with the status quo. That's because many of them have nowhere else to go. They've been forced by reality to become bandits. Their goal is to make a living so that they won't starve to death. Of course, this group of people isn't willing to take the risk. However, mountain bandits are mountain bandits. Among them, there's also a group of evil people who are savage by nature. They're either great bandits or disciples who have abandoned their sections. They've lost all humanity and take pleasure in plundering and killing. Such a group of evil people won't be willing to stay in the pass and enjoy a peaceful life. The leader of the bandits was able to suppress this group of villains and restrict them from leaving seclusion. Tell me, don't you think this leader's prestige is very high?" Ouyang Shua explained. Mu Guiying nodded in agreement. "So, for the sake of the long term, we have to think of a way to eradicate these mountain bandits. Otherwise, if one day the leader can't control his subordinates, wouldn't it be a waste of time? To Mulan Town, they're a ticking time bomb that could explode at any time," Ouyang Shua reminded. "I understand. Mulan Town will strengthen its investigation of the mountain bandits in Southern Guard Pass. We'll do our best to find out more about them in the shortest time possible," Mu Guiying said with a solemn expression. "If you need Shanghai County support, just say the word," Ouyang Shua promised. Of course, when the two of them returned to Mulan Town, Mu Lanyue was still discussing some matters with Yang Yin. Ouyang Shua didn't stay in Mulan Town for long. He gave the 2,000 gold coins to Mu Lanyue for safekeeping. When the bank was built, Mu Lanyue would use the storage bag function of the players to melt the gold coins and deposit them into the bank's vault. Ouyang Shua then returned to Shanghai County through the teleportation array. To be continued. Chapter 175. 3 days later, on the 9th of June, Luofeng Town was successfully promoted to Luofeng County, becoming the third territory in the China region to be promoted to a Level 1 county. On the 10th of June, Ouyang Shua had just logged on when he heard a system announcement. System announcement. Congratulations to player Wolf Warrior for becoming the 4th Lord of China region to be promoted to a Level 1 county. The reward is 1,600 achievement points. System announcement. Congratulations to player Wolf Warrior for becoming the 4th Lord of China region to be promoted to a level 1 county. The reward is 1,600 achievement points. System announcement. Congratulations to player Wolf Warrior for becoming the 4th Lord of China region to be promoted to a level 1 county. The reward is 1,600 achievement points. As expected, Blood Red Town, which had the direct support of the military, was suddenly promoted. Stimulated by Blood Red Town's promotion, Bai Hua couldn't take it anymore and decided to apply for promotion 3 days in advance. In other words, Luofeng Town would officially welcome the bandits on the 13th of June. As a result, Wang Yuanfeng, who had just rushed back from Luofeng County, was sent by Ouyang Shua to Lingxi Town to assist Lingxi Town in setting up the 3 bows, 8 bulls bed crossbows and train the bed crossbowmen. The Bank of the Four Seas Mulan Town branch had officially opened for business yesterday. Mulan Yue used Mulan Town's name to take out a low-interest loan of 1,000 gold coins for the expansion of the army and the construction of the city wall. The remaining 1,000 gold coins were given to the individual businesses, workshops, and shops in Mulan Town to provide low-interest loans for their operations. On the same day, North Sea Town's population reached the upper limit of 10,000 people and was officially promoted to North Sea County. The promotion of a subsidiary territory didn't need to go through the system's test. As long as the basic conditions were met, it would automatically be promoted. After North Sea County was promoted, Ouyang Shua used the name of the Lord's Mansion to officially appoint Gu Xiuwen as the North Sea County Magistrate. At the same time, it was clearly stated that the county magistrate's administrative rank was equivalent to that of the head of the headquarters. Before the promotion, there wasn't a clear position for each subsidiary territory's chief. The titles of village chief, town mayor, and chief officer weren't uniform. The administrative ranks weren't clear either. Using this opportunity, Ouyang Shua further standardized the management of the subsidiary territories. At the same time, he delegated some of his authority. It was clearly stated that the county magistrate, the chief administrative officer, the chief internal affairs officer, the chief financial officer, and the chief material reserve officer would be directly appointed and administered by the Lord's Mansion. The Lord's Mansion didn't interfere with the county magistrate's appointment anymore. Instead, it was directly appointed by the county magistrate. The administrative ranks of the subsidiary territories' officials were automatically lowered by 1 level compared to the headquarters. In other words, the 4 directors of the affiliated counties had administrative ranks equivalent to the Director General of the headquarters, and the Director General of the affiliated counties was equivalent to the Assistant Director General of the headquarters. The salary standard was implemented according to the administrative rank, not according to the position. At the same time, Ouyang Shua also clearly defined the administrative structure of the affiliated counties. There was no military office in the affiliated counties, only the Combat Readiness Department. The banks in the affiliated territories were under the direct jurisdiction of the Bank of the Four Seas and were not under the jurisdiction of the Finance Department in the affiliated territories. There was no Salt Field Department in the affiliated territories, only the Supply Department and the Carriage Department. The separate Combat Readiness Division was placed under the jurisdiction of the Supplies Division. After North Sea County was promoted, the North Sea Fleet expanded and officially established the 3rd Battalion of the North Sea Fleet. Li Hai was appointed as the commander of the 3rd Battalion. At the same time, Ouyang Shua sent an official letter to Pei Donglai, requesting that the North Sea Fleet initiate the selection of the 4th Battalion. When the time was right, the 4th Battalion would be established immediately. Once the North Sea Fleet expanded to 4 battalions with a total of 2,000 people, they would officially launch an attack on the Black Shark pirates on Moon Island and pull out this poisonous fawn. After dealing with the affairs of North Sea County, Ouyang Shua stood up and left the office, turning to the backyard. In the yard, Binger was playing with Heya. Heya was now an adult. He had a strong body and a mighty temperament. He had strong muscles and strong bones. He was 75 centimeters tall and weighed 55 kilograms. Heya's fur was very beautiful. It was fine and shiny, and its tail was slender and straight. Black wolfhounds were naturally smart and lively. They would occasionally play tricks on their masters. They were very territorial and friendly to the elderly and children. Poor Heya was abandoned by Ouyang Shua. Ever since Bing'er came, he had finally ushered in life. Oh no, it was the spring of a dog's life. The little master especially liked Heya. She brought him with her all day long, played with him, fed him all kinds of delicious food, and wandered around the territory. She was very satisfied. Big brother. Seeing Ouyang Shua, Bing'er immediately opened her arms and ran over. Ouyang Shua picked her up and said with a smile, "Baby, are you bored?" Bing'er shook her head and said with a smile, "No, Bing'er feels that this place is much more interesting than school." Ouyang Shua thought to himself, "Of course you're not bored. The whole territory treats you like a princess. You're welcomed everywhere you go." Gu Sanyang often took Bing'er to the restaurant and made all kinds of cakes for her. Qing'er had prepared more than 10 sets of clothes for Bing'er. Even Lu Guangji, the owner of the woodworking workshop, who was greatly indebted to Ouyang Shua, dropped his work and personally made all kinds of puppets for Bing'er when he heard that the territory lord's sister was only 8 years old. It was already June. There was only 1 month left before the summer vacation. The Allied government decided to bring forward the holiday. Therefore, the school and the game would not officially open until the next semester began, which was the 1st of September. Bing'er was very happy when she found that she could play for 3 months. "Baby, Big Brother will take you to ride horses, okay?" Ouyang Shua felt guilty. He had spent too little time with her in the past half a month. If it wasn't for her, he really didn't know what would have happened. "Really?" Bing'er looked happy. "Of course." "Yay. Great. Ride a big horse." Ouyang Shua put Bing'er down and held her little hand as they walked to the stable. The stable had been moved to the Martial Excellence Courtyard. When they entered the Martial Excellence Courtyard, they saw a group of soldiers training on the drill ground. They were the selected bodyguards. There were 100 of them. The soldiers stopped training and saluted Ouyang Shua when they saw him. Ouyang Shua waved his hand and gestured for them to continue. The captain of the bodyguards, Wang Feng, ran over and said, "Sir." Ouyang Shua nodded. "Wang Feng, I'm going out with Bing'er. Get someone to bring the horse out." "Yes." Ouyang Shua turned around and walked out of the Martial Excellence Courtyard to the entrance of the Lord's mansion. Soon, the coachman brought out Ouyang Shua's green buckskin horse. Behind the coachman, there were 4 bodyguards who were also leading green buckskin horses. They were wearing radiant armor and were fully armed. Ouyang Shua took the reins and signaled the bodyguards with his eyes. What are they doing? The leader of the bodyguards was smart. He immediately said in a loud voice, "Sir, this is the captain's order." He said that when you go out, the bodyguards must follow you and protect your safety. Ouyang Shua nodded. Wang Feng was really considerate. He didn't plan to ruin Wang Feng's arrangement. He said casually, "Then get on the horse. Remember, don't get too close." "Yes." Ouyang Shua turned around and told Bing'er to get on the horse. Then he got on the horse himself and held Bing'er in front of him. When he was about to leave, Heya ran out. "Hey, Little Black, are you coming with us?" Bing'er called Heya like this. Heya, this cheap wretch, actually accepted this humiliating name. He didn't have the dignity of a black wolf dog. He barked at Bing'er twice and kept wagging his tail. Bing'er really understood. She turned around and said to Ouyang Shua, "Brother, let Little Black go with us." Ouyang Shua couldn't do anything but nod and agree. Bing'er smiled happily and shouted to Heya, "Little Black, let's go." Inside the city, Ouyang Shua only rode slowly. Along the way, when the citizens saw the Lord going out with his sister, they automatically gave way and didn't forget to nod in greeting. Ouyang Shua slightly gestured and passed through the west gate into the western wilderness. In the area near the west gate, the second city wall and territory renewal project were in full swing. Ouyang Shua didn't disturb them. He passed through the second wall and went deep into the wilderness. In front of him was a flat plain. Ouyang Shua's interest was piqued, and he started to gallop. Not to mention, Heya really wasn't weak. He could actually keep up with the speed of the green beetle horse. Bing'er sat on the horse's back and leaned on Ouyang Shua's chest. Looking at the scenery passing by on both sides, she was extremely happy. Her small mouth didn't stop, chirping nonstop. Halfway through, Ouyang Shuo raised his head and saw a small mountain not far away. He couldn't help but be startled. It turned out that he had unknowingly come to the Qingyang Temple. Since it was a coincidence, Ouyang Shuo simply went straight to the Qingyang Temple and prepared to pay a visit to the temple master Guyan. After dismounting, Ouyang Shuo carried Binger down and handed the horse to the guard who followed him. He went forward and knocked on the temple door. With a squeak, the temple door opened and a 12 or 13-year-old Taoist boy came out. After saluting Ouyang Shuo, he asked, "Who are you, young master? What business do you have in the temple?" Before Ouyang Shuo could answer, the guard behind him had already rushed to say, "Presumptuous, this is the Lord." Ouyang Shuo stopped the guard. He naturally wouldn't lower himself to the level of a Taoist boy. Moreover, the Taoist boy was young, so it was normal that he didn't know him. Little Taoist boy is Taoist Gu in the temple. Sorry for taking the liberty to visit. The Taoist boy was a little scared after being scolded by the guard. Seeing that the Lord didn't have any intention of blaming him, he was relieved and said respectfully, "The temple master is in the temple. Please follow me, Lord." Ouyang Shuo nodded and had the guard wait outside the temple. Holding Binger's hand, he followed behind the Taoist boy and walked into the Qingyang Temple. This was the first time Ouyang Shuo had walked into the Qingyang Temple. The floor was paved with blue stone, with green bricks and green tiles. Green trees provided shade. It was a quiet and beautiful scene. Ouyang Shuo couldn't help but nod. This was indeed a good place for quiet cultivation. To be continued. Chapter 176. In the quiet room of Qingyang Temple, Ouyang Shuo and Gu Daozhong sat cross-legged facing each other. There was a small tea table between them, and Gu Daozhong was making tea. As for Bing she was playing with the Taoist children in the temple. Gu Daozhong handed a cup of tea to Ouyang Shuo. Ouyang Shuo took a sip, and praised, "Good tea." The tea was Baihao tea that Ouyang Shuo asked someone to send. The water used to make the tea was Gu Daozhong's secret recipe. Therefore, the tea had a special charm. Gu Yin smiled without saying anything. He stared at Ouyang Shuo and said, "Your Excellency, did you have an encounter recently? From your body, this humble Taoist can sense a trace of the aura that belongs to my Taoism." Ouyang Shuo was shocked. This Gu Yin was really not simple. He could actually feel the inner chi of inner canon of the yellow the arch in his body. During this time, he had been practicing diligently and had already reached the second level. The second level of inner canon of the yellow the arch increased the upper limit of his inner force to 1,000 points. However, Ouyang Shuo could only run the circulatory cycle 5 times a day. In other words, according to this speed, he needed 180 days, which was half a year, to reach the third level. Such a slow cultivation speed couldn't help but cause Ouyang Shuo to feel anxious, and he was wondering if his method of cultivation was wrong. It should be known that inner canon of a yellow the arch had 12 levels. According to this speed, even if he practiced for 10 years, he might not be able to reach the top level. Gu Yin was a Taoist. Inner canon of a yellow the arch could also be classified as a Taoist. Did he have some method? Ouyang Shuo's heart moved. Perhaps his opportunity was in front of him. Ouyang Shuo didn't dare to be negligent. He said sincerely, "To tell you the truth, some time ago, I was fortunate to obtain inner canon of the yellow the arch. After practicing for a period of time, I found that my practice speed was unusually slow. Please give me some advice." Gu Yin suddenly understood and said with a smile, "Your Excellency is very fortunate. Inner canon of the yellow the arch is one of the top Taoist classics. Your Excellency did not enter the Taoist gate and did not read the Taoist scripture. It was naturally difficult to practice." Ouyang Shuo nodded. So that was it. Ouyang Shuo stood up and bowed to Taoist Gu. "Please accept me as your disciple, Taoist Gu." Gu Daozhong turned sideways and accepted it. He invited Ouyang Shuo to sit down again and said, "Darren is a noble lord of first-class count. Your status is honorable, and you are destined to enjoy the riches and honor of the mortal world. This humble Taoist does not dare to accept you as a disciple." Ouyang Shuo was a little anxious and was about to stand up and bow again. Good Daozhong stopped him. "My lord, there's no need to rush. Although I can't accept you into the Tao sect, I can teach you the Tao scripture. After you return, as long as you study the Tao scripture yourself, you will definitely gain something." Ouyang Shuo calmed down. It was good that there was a way. The two of them sat down again, and good Daozhong began to teach Ouyang Shuo the Tao scripture. The lecture went on for 2 hours. Finally, the sound of the system notification resounded in Ouyang Shuo's ears. System notification. Congratulations to player. Don't say you don't have clothes for receiving guidance from the head of Qingyang Monastery, good Daozhong. You have comprehended the Tao scripture, experienced the heavenly Tao, and comprehended the method of cultivation. As for the specific content, please explore it yourself. What the system said was specious, and Ouyang Shuo did not know what effect it had. He could only find out after he returned and studied the inner canon of the Yellow Emperor. Near noon, Ouyang Shuo and Binger ate at the Qingyang Temple and left. Before leaving, Taoist Ge gave Ouyang Shuo a copy of the Tao scripture for him to study. On the way, Binger sat on the horse and asked curiously, "Brother, what were you talking about with that Uncle Taoist in the quiet room this morning? You talked for so long that Binger was bored." "What a curious little girl." Ouyang Shuo smiled and said, "We were talking about the path of cultivation." "What is cultivation?" "Cultivation is when adults go to school." Ouyang Shuo could only explain it this way. "Oh, so brother was in class." Hearing this, Binger lost interest. Back at the Lord's mansion, Ouyang Shuo asked Binger to find Zissou and let Zissou play with her. He returned to his room and began to practice the inner canon of the Yellow Emperor. After one cycle, Ouyang Shuo was delighted. It turned out that he could increase his internal energy by 4 points with one cycle. In other words, he could increase his cultivation speed by 4 times. Ouyang Shuo did not dare to slack off and continued to cultivate. After the 5th cycle, he felt a swelling pain in his meridians and had to stop. It seemed that Taoist Ji's guidance only improved the quality of his internal energy and did not increase the number of cycles. Even so, Ouyang Shuo was very satisfied. After all, it used to take him half a year to reach the 3rd level, but now he only needed 1.5 months to complete it. As long as he continued to study the Tao scripture, he would definitely be able to increase his cultivation speed again, and his future would be bright. After the cultivation ended, it was already 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Ouyang Shuo walked out of his room and returned to the front yard to deal with today's government affairs. On the 13th of June, Lingxi Town was successfully promoted and became the 5th first-class county in China. 2 days later, the population of Shanghai County reached 20,000. Ouyang Shuo walked into the meeting hall and muttered the words territory promotion. A white light flashed, and in the middle of the meeting hall, a golden stone tablet slowly rose from the ground. He pressed his right hand on the front of the stone tablet, and the system notification sounded. System notification, checking the requirements for Shanghai County's promotion. Requirement 1. The population has reached 20,000, the maximum population limit. Requirements met. Requirement 2. The construction of all basic buildings has been completed. Requirements met. Requirement 3. The territorial lord must be at least a 2nd-class earl. Requirements met. System notification. Congratulations to player who says nothing for establishing Shanghai County. All the promotion requirements have been met. Do you want to upgrade? Upgrade. On the stone tablet, a golden light shot up into the sky and exploded in the air, turning into a golden halo that spread in all directions. The halo extended to the new edge of the territory and disappeared again. System notification. Congratulations to player who says nothing for becoming the 1st territorial lord to be promoted to a 2nd-class county in China. Achievement points rewarded, 2,200. System notification. Congratulations to player who says nothing for becoming the 1st territorial lord to be promoted to a 2nd-class county in China. Achievement points rewarded. 2,200. System notification. Congratulations to player who says nothing for becoming the first territorial lord to be promoted to a second-class county in China. Achievement points rewarded. 2,200. Shanghai County was once again one step ahead, becoming the only second-class county in China. System notification. Congratulations to player who says nothing for becoming a second-class county. 3 basic buildings of a second-class county will be randomly selected. Player may choose one of them. System notification. 3 buildings have been randomly selected. They are the Opera Building, the Mountain Altar, and the Crop Altar. Please choose. I choose the Opera Building. System notification. The building is being automatically generated. Please check for yourself. A white light flashed, and the golden stone tablet slowly sank into the ground again. Ouyang Shua took the opportunity to check Shanghai County's attributes. Territory, Shanghai County, second-class county. Territorial lord. Who says nothing, first-class earl. Title. World's #1 county. Increases territory popularity by 30. Popular support. 94 public security. 92 territory population. 20,000/50,000 refugee respawn rate. 200, 1 plus 50. Equals 300 refugees per day. Territory area. 5,000 square kilometers. Territory characteristics. Refugee attraction rate increased by 50. Special talent attraction rate increased by 25. Crop yield increased by 60. Production skill proficiency increased by 25. Army soldier level increased by 20. Territory talent success rate increased by 10. Political index. 60 out of 100 determines administrative efficiency, relates to popular support. Economic index. 55 out of 100 determines trade prosperity, relates to tax revenue. Cultural index. 55 out of 100 determines education development, relates to the quality of residence. Military index. 60 out of 100 determines military strength, relates to stable relationships. Subsidiary territories. Beihai County, Pool Town, Friendship Town, Territory Capital. Four Seas Bank, Territory Association. Textile Association, Fishery Association, Territory Industry. North Twilight Salt Field, Wolf Mountain Mine, West City Ranch, Gale Valley Military Horse Farm, Territory Special Products. Lianzhou Sanhua Wine, Colorful Silk, Baihao Tea Special Buildings. Lianzhou College, Qingyang Temple, Sangha Restaurant, Beihai Port. Hidden Buildings. Mazu Temple, Sealed, Recruitment Hall. Yellow Emperor Temple list of basic construction buildings. Frowny Face Opera Building. A building used for performances. Construction requirements. Opera Building blueprints. 8,000 units of wood. For 1,000 units of green bricks. 5,000 units of stone. Construction time. 10 days. Note. This building is automatically generated. Chess courtyard. A courtyard for playing chess. Construction requirements. Chess player. Chess courtyard blueprints. 8,000 units of wood. For 1,000 units of green bricks. 5,000 units of stone. Construction time. 10 days. Mountain and river altar. A place to worship the gods of agriculture. Construction requirements. Mountain and river altar blueprints. 2,000 units of wood. 8,000 units of green bricks. 8,000 units of stone. Construction time. 10 days. Crop altar. A place to worship the gods of agriculture and millet. Construction requirements. Crop altar blueprints. 2,000 units of wood. 8,000 units of green bricks. 8,000 units of stone. Construction time. 10 days. Calendar altar. A place to worship the gods. Construction requirements. Calendar altar blueprints. 2,000 units of wood. 8,000 units of green bricks. 8,000 units of stone. Construction time. 10 days. The 5 basic buildings of a second-class county were all cultural buildings. Especially at the county level, cultural buildings would become the mainstream of basic buildings. Among them, the mountain and river altar, crop altar, and calendar altar were the 3 essential altars for a county. The mountain and river altar was located in the southern suburbs outside the city, commonly known as the South Altar. The crop altar was located in the northwestern suburbs, commonly known as the West Altar. The calendar altar was located in the northern suburbs, commonly known as the North Altar. To be continued. Chapter 177. Among the 5 basic buildings of a second-class county, the theater would be automatically generated. The mountain and river altar, the crop altar, and the calendar altar could be built as long as one had the blueprints. The most troublesome was probably the chess hall. They needed chess players, and this required luck. Tier 2 county infrastructure building. Every blueprint sold for 500 gold. It was already very difficult to obtain such architectural blueprints from the road bandit camp, including the basic architectural blueprints of the Grade 1 counties, because this kind of cultural building basically had no fate with the bandits. Therefore, the Mixed Brigade didn't get any usable building blueprints from the previous operation to suppress the bandits. As a result, just buying the blueprints for a Tier 2 county required 2,000 gold coins. The population limit of a Tier 2 county was raised to 50,000. Based on the spawning rate of refugees in Shanghai County, it would theoretically take 100 days for the county to reach its maximum population again. Therefore, Ouyang Shuo had to plunder the population through other channels. Of course, for the other lords, there was still a huge hurdle before they could advance to a rank 3 county, and that was the restriction of nobility. Apart from Ouyang Shuo, Lord Chunxin, Feng Xiuhuang, Zhang Lang, and Bai Hua were still only second-rank earls. Among them, War Wolf and White Birch were only able to become second-class earls by relying on the merit points awarded when they were promoted to a first-class county. Advancing from a second-class earl to a first-class earl required 12 merit points. It was practically impossible to obtain so many merit points on the main map. Therefore, they were still a long way from becoming first-rank earls. In other words, even if Lord Chunxin and Wolf Warrior used the players to fill up the population of the territory and quickly upgraded the territory to a second-class county, it would stop there. It was conceivable that the competition for the next battle mission would be even more intense. The restriction of nobility also came into play on the suzerains who had recently been promoted to rank 1 towns. From start to finish, the system did not reward these overlord players with achievement points every time their territory was promoted. They could only earn achievement points by suppressing bandits. It was truly a drop in the bucket. Therefore, if they wanted to upgrade to a second-class town, they would have to go through a lot of obstacles. The pyramid effect was beginning to show. The importance of the title also began to attract the attention of the lords. The territory of a second-class county covered an area of 5,000 square kilometers, while the Lianzhou Basin covered an area of 240,000 square kilometers. In other words, Shanghai County occupied 1/48th of the Lianzhou Basin. If the vast land occupied by the nomadic tribes was deducted, the probability of Shanghai County bordering other territories was very high. As expected, on the second day after Shanghai County was promoted, Song San came to Ouyang Shuo's office. "Sir, there's important military information." Ouyang Shuo's spirit shook as he quickly said, "Speak." Song San organized his thoughts before saying, "Last month, the investigation mission that Sir assigned to the Military Intelligence Division has already made progress. After the territory was promoted, the few territories that were originally a distance away from us are now at the edge of the new territory." "Tell me the details," Ouyang Shuo said calmly. "Here," Song San continued, "this batch of territory is distributed on the east and west sides. There are 5 village-level territories bordering us on the west side and 3 on the east side. These villages are all 3rd-level villages. How are the defenses of these villages?" Ouyang Shuo's killing intent had already been aroused. These level 3 villages have a maximum population of 1,000 people. They have 1 to 2 platoons of garrison troops. Most of them are the most basic saber and shield soldiers, and some are even militia. Most of them are sword and shield soldiers. Some of them are even militia. Song Sin understood what Ouyang Shuo was trying to say. "Then don't hesitate. Get rid of them." Ouyang Shuo made up his mind. He looked at Song San and said, "We will hold an emergency military meeting at 4 in the afternoon. You, and Lung Qian will attend. Understood. After Song San took his leave, Ouyang Shuo called for clerk by Nanpu and asked him to inform the Military Affairs Division Chief Go Hongliang, Mixed Brigade Commander Shi Wansui, as well as the 5 battalion commanders of the Mixed Brigade to attend an emergency military meeting at the Lord's Mansion. At 4 in the afternoon, in the Lord's Mansion. After Song San and Lung Qian finished reporting on the players' territories on the east and west sides, Ouyang Shuo said, "How can we allow people to sleep next to us? These territories must be eradicated. What does the military have to say about this?" "What else can we say, sir? Leave this to the Mixed Brigade. I promise they will do it well." Shi Wansui shouted before Gu Hongliang could say anything. Ouyang Shuo frowned and scolded. "What are you doing? Are you trying to rebel?" If the 5 battalion commanders were not present, Ouyang Shuo's words would have been more severe. Ouyang Shuo realized that ever since he was promoted to brigade commander, Shi Wansui had been looking down on Gu Hongliang. How could Ouyang Shuo not be angry? Ouyang Shuo could not tolerate his subordinates being so spoiled. Even a special class general like Shi Wansui could not tolerate it. Therefore, he had to nip this flame in the bud. Ouyang Shuo might look gentle and refined, but once he got angry, there was no one in the army who was not afraid. Even Shi Wansui was silent after being scolded by Ouyang Shuo. Ouyang Shuo did not want to embarrass Shi Wansui and gave him a way out. He looked at Gu Hongliang and said, "Division Commander Gu, please speak." Gu Hongliang was well aware of the situation and felt even more embarrassed. Fortunately, the Lord still trusted him. Gu Hongliang was not like Shi Wansui, who was shrewd. Gu Hongliang collected his emotions and asked, "Does my lord have any time requirements regarding when to deploy the troops?" Ouyang Shuo was startled and said, "We must finish the battle before the end of this month." The reason why Ouyang Shuo had said it before the end of the month was because he did not want to drag it out until July. At that time, players would die and their levels would return to 0 and all their items would drop. As the first territory to initiate a territorial war, the pressure they had to endure was too great. Gu Hongliang nodded and said, "As the saying goes, one must first pacify the interior before resisting foreign aggression. There is still plenty of time. Then, this subordinate suggests that we first use 10 days of time to wipe out the bandits in the newly added territory." July was coming, and the rice was about to be harvested. He had to first ensure that this batch of food would not be coveted by the bandits within the borders. In addition, with the expansion of the territory, the settlements would also have to move out. It was impossible to develop only the core area of Shanhai County in the territory of 5,000 square kilometers. Only by eliminating the roving bandits and ensuring the stability of the territory can we establish new settlements and open up new farmlands. Ouyang Shuo nodded in satisfaction. He raised his head to look at the generals and said casually, "Do you understand what Division Chief said?" "Yes." The generals replied in unison, not daring to be vague. "All of you are generals, not pure soldiers. It is important to kill enemies on the battlefield. However, if you want to become a famous general, you must think of war from a broader strategic perspective. You must be aware of the overall situation. Today, Division Chief Gu has taught all of you a good lesson. I hope you will remember it well." Ouyang Shuo warned again. He did not specifically mention Shi Wansui's name. Understood. Ouyang Shuo returned to his office after the military meeting. His territory had just been upgraded, and there were a lot of things waiting for him to deal with. Beihai County Magistrate Gu Xiuan had sent an official letter requesting a sum of money from the headquarters to start the construction of Beihai County's first city wall. Beihai County City Wall would be built according to the standards of Shanhai County's second city wall. It would be 6 kilometers long, 12 meters tall, and 6 meters wide. Apart from that, Gu Xiuan also asked if he could start the construction of Beihai County's subsidiary territory. After Shanhai County had been upgraded, the 3 towns were first-level subsidiary territories. They could already develop 3 more subsidiary territories. However, Ouyang Shuo did not agree to it. The reason was that Shanhai County, Beihai County, Pool Town, and Friendship Town were too close to each other. Just like what Gu Hongliang had said before, they would only develop the core area. The newly added territories would not be fully developed and utilized, which would result in a huge waste. The location of the subsidiary territories could not be moved. If it was said that Ouyang Shuo had his own strategic considerations when choosing the locations of the 3 subsidiary territories, Beihai County, Pool Town, and Friendship Town. However, Ouyang Shuo was not prepared to do so for the second-level subsidiary territory. He had to wait until the territory reached a certain scale before building the second-level subsidiary territory. Subsidiary territories could not be developed endlessly. The second-level subsidiary territory would be the limit. In other words, the territory could only develop 9 more subsidiary territories in the future. Otherwise, Ouyang Shuo would not have thought of building settlements to divert the population and develop the land. The fundamental difference between subsidiary territories and settlements was that subsidiary territories could grow and could be continuously upgraded. New refugees would spawn every day. As for the settlement, it would be how it was when it was built. Population growth could only be achieved through the reproduction of descendants. Similarly, if the territory of other players was attacked and occupied, the territory would lose its most important growth potential and become a large settlement. The territory's teleportation portal would also disappear automatically. This was also the reason why Ouyang Shuo did not go on an expedition to destroy other players' territories. Not to mention that he would have to mobilize a large number of troops. He would also have to face constant harassment from bandits along the way. Even if he managed to conquer the territory, he would not be able to get anything other than a few people. It was not worth it. The population captured by the surrounding village-level territories was not even comparable to the mountain barbarian tribes or the bandit camp. It was not a wise move. Needless to say, the captive population could only be of use to some commoners. Those special geniuses with a certain level were loyal to their original lord, so it wasn't easy to recruit them for one's own use. To be continued. Chapter 178. P.S. My monthly votes broke 400 last night. I updated it in the morning. Ouyang Shuo's strategy for the surrounding territories could be summed up as gu-rearing. Ouyang Shuo had long since regarded Lianzhou Basin as his. He would not allow anyone to touch it. The other player territories in Lianzhou Basin were not on the same level as Shanhai County. Since conquering other players' territories would cause them to lose their most important growth potential, Ouyang Shuo was not in a hurry. He waited for these territories to develop on their own. These territories were like blood-generating machines that Ouyang Shuo had set up. Continuously bringing refugees to Lianzhou Basin. Ouyang Shuo would only make a move when these territories bordered Shanhai County and could spy on Shanhai County secrets. He would cleanly clear them out of Lianzhou Basin. To protect Shanhai County's secrets, Ouyang Shuo had to create a vacuum between Shanhai County and the other players' territories to prevent the infiltration of other players' territories. This vacuum was like a container for gu-rearing, blocking the sight of the gu worms and their owners. Of course, to be a gu-rearer, one had to possess absolute strength and powerful gu-rearing methods. Otherwise, not only would one be nurturing a tiger, but one might also die from the backlash of the gu worms. At the very least, the newly established Heavenly Saber Union would not agree to Ouyang Shuo being a gu-rearer in Lianzhou Basin. Without a doubt, Ouyang Shuo had once again rejected Beihai County's application to build a subsidiary territory. As for the financial allocation that Beihai County had applied for to build the city walls, they could only obtain the profits from the Wolf Mountain Mine and the Northern Twilight Salt Field in the first half of June. Shanhai County was making money fast and spending it even faster. Ouyang Shuo wrote his opinion in red ink on Gu Xiuwen's official letter. The amount of the financial allocation was set at 500 gold coins, and Beihai County would handle the rest. Following this, Clerk by Nanpu would circulate the letter to the relevant departments according to Ouyang Shuo's comments and hand it over to the director or bureau chief to handle. Now, Ouyang Shuo no longer needed to run to his subordinates' offices or call them over to his office to give instructions. At the county level, Ouyang Shuo was putting in a lot of effort to implement a more standardized and orderly administrative system and to standardize the process of handling affairs. Take this matter for example. After Ouyang Shuo had commented, Bai Nanpu had passed on Ouyang Shuo's opinion to Finance Director Cui Yingyu. Cui Yingyu would naturally arrange for people to collect the income from the first half of June before allocating funds to Beihai County. After settling the matters in Beihai County, Ouyang Shuo picked up the official letter sent by Zhao Daxian, the chief official of Pool Town. In his official letter, Zhao Daxian mentioned that the construction of the mountain barbarian settlement had already been completed and that the small mountain barbarian tribe had already moved to the settlement. The relevant living materials and farming tools had also been delivered. Tian Wenjing still had a way. After the settlement was built, Tian Wenjing immediately organized the mountain barbarian tribes and arranged for a group of tribesmen to visit the settlement under the guise of a public tour. He saw the neat rows of green brick courtyards, the mountains of grain in the warehouse, the chickens, ducks, geese, and other poultry in the courtyards, the cages of vegetables, and the vast fields outside the settlement. All of this shocked the visiting barbarians. Compared to the bitter days in the mountains, the settlement in front of them was like a paradise on earth. Not only that, Zhao Daxian had fully understood Ouyang Shuo's intentions. According to the standards of the mountain barbarians, under the guidance of the tribe shamans, they had built a very imposing ancestral temple. All of this was very tempting. On the spot, two small tribes expressed their willingness to move to Shanhai County. In addition, there was a medium-sized tribe and two small tribes who said that they would discuss with their tribesmen if they wanted to leave the mountains and settle there. Such fruitful results made Ouyang Shuo overjoyed. When the two small tribes left the mountains, the population of Pool Town would immediately exceed the upper limit of 10,000 people. It would become the second affiliated territory after Beihai County to be upgraded to a first-class county. Not only that, the increase in the labor force would also provide a strong guarantee for the grain production in the second half of the year. Ouyang Shuo immediately commented on the official letter, requesting the finance department to allocate 1,000 gold coins as financial subsidy to Pool Town for the subsequent construction of the mountain barbarian settlement. Now it seemed that among the three affiliated territories, Friendship Town was the most backward. Although they had successfully built the market, the nomadic tribe valued their green beetle horses very much and were not willing to sell them easily. Moreover, the purchasing power of the green beetle horses was very strong. The last time the Sky Rich tribe sold 200 green beetle horses, the resources they got in exchange were enough for their tribe to use for a long time. Moreover, it was summer and the grass was lush. It was a good time to graze. The herdsmen were not free and came to the market to trade. Therefore, the market was very quiet and did not meet the expectations of Friendship Town's Governor Zhou Haichen. After reading Zhou Haichen's official letter, Ouyang Shuo was deep in thought. It seemed that if he wanted to pry open the giant rock that was the nomadic tribe, it would not be enough to just rely on trade. At the crucial moment, he had to launch a military operation. It would only be effective if he used both methods at the same time. With this thought in mind, Ouyang Shuo immediately sent official letters to the military department and the North City Barracks, requesting the North City Barracks to start recruiting soldiers. He wanted to expand the North City Barracks by another cavalry battalion within half a month. As for the headquarters, Ouyang Shuo did not plan to expand the army for the time being. This way, it would not be too much of a burden on the territory's finances. Considering that the Friendship Town's financial income was already meager, and it also had to support the City Defense Battalion and the North City Barracks, it was somewhat unable to bear the burden. Ouyang Shuo noted in the official letter that the financial department would give Friendship Town a financial subsidy of 1,000 gold coins, mainly for military expenses and the purchase of the green beetle horses. This way, the three subsidiary territories would consume 2,500 gold coins of financial subsidy. If it were not for the Wolf Mountain Mine and the North Twilight Salt Field, the two golden chickens that laid eggs, they would not be able to survive. Otherwise, How difficult would it be to run a territory well, especially a territory like Shanghai County that developed along with subsidiary territories? Nowadays, many of the level 1 towns and villages built earthen walls. The reason why they did not build stone walls like Shanghai County was not because they did not have the stones or the manpower, but because they did not have the money. After the refugees joined the territory, they were not slaves to the Lord, but people. When they first started their business, it was fine if they only took care of food. Firstly, there were few people, and secondly, the territory was poor, so the people could understand. However, after surviving the initial stage and being promoted to a level 1 town, if there was a lord who still wanted to continue squeezing the people, treating them as his personal property or even slaves, only giving them food to eat close to wear and wages, then it was very likely that the people would riot and kill the lord. In his previous life, there were cases where the lord was killed by his own NPCs and replaced. Of course, under normal circumstances, the refugees were very docile and honest. If they were not forced into a corner, they would not do such a thing. Otherwise, who would dare to be a lord if they rioted at the slightest provocation? By the time he finished processing the official letters from the 3 subsidiary territories, it was close to 6 in the evening. Ouyang Shua got up, handed the official letters to the clerk by Nanpu, and walked to the backyard. "Big brother, you got off work early." In the backyard, Binger was playing with a picture of the swallow with Zisu, which was the modern Tangram. When she saw Ouyang Shua, she said in surprise. This picture of the swallow was specially made by Lu Guangji for Binger. Binger had seen all kinds of toys in real life, but she was also very interested in this kind of interesting intellectual game from ancient times. She was also very talented, and even Zisu and Banxia could not beat her. Ouyang Shua nodded and said, "Yes, Big Brother came in advance to see if our family's little pixie was obedient when Big Brother wasn't around." Binger put down the picture of the swallow and ran over to Ouyang Shua to be carried. Ouyang Shua carried her and walked to the dining hall. It was just in time for dinner. He did not know why, but after entering the game, Binger became more and more clingy and wanted to be carried at the slightest provocation. Ouyang Shua guessed that the little girl must have seen Ouyang Shua spoiling Ingyu and Qing'e, especially Qing'e. She felt that her big brother had been snatched away by others, so she constantly declared her sovereignty. Just like in real life, a long time ago, there was a fight for the second child, the original only child, because they did not want their parents' love to be divided by their younger siblings. They did their best to oppose their parents having a second child. Ouyang Shua did not intervene, but just let it be. It was even more impossible for him to reduce his concern for Ingyu and Qing'e because of this. But he continued to fulfill his responsibility as the big brother. Ouyang Shua wanted Binger to know that love must be shared, and this was also a stage that she had to go through in her growth. After dinner, Ouyang Shua returned to his room and went offline. In real life, because there was only half a month left until the official migration on the 1st of July, the atmosphere was a little heavy. There was hesitation about the future and also reluctance to leave Earth. According to news reports, some old people did not agree to migrate. First, there was still 10 years before the mutation on Earth, and it was still unknown whether they could live until then. Second, they did not want to suffer. Secondly, he did not want to go through the hassle. Not to mention the interstellar journey. Even arriving at Hope Planet would be a hassle. Naturally, the federal government respected the choice of the citizens. Before leaving, they would leave enough living supplies and supporting life robots to take care of the lives of the citizens who were not willing to migrate. In addition, some artists were also quite reluctant to leave the works of art that could not be taken away, such as ancient architecture, murals, and some intangible cultural heritage. There was a crazy one who even declared that he wanted to live and die with art, and vowed not to migrate. For such people, the federal government did not need to be polite and directly drag them away. To be continued. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.